Carlsberg for just £10. Asda. Save money, live better.
Selected stores subject to availability. Max 6 per customer. Over 18s only. Drink aware.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The warm-up with the two mics
On Talk Sport.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to Two Mics doing the warm-up again. Porky's made it back from a hard day at Epsom yesterday in the company of Alan Brazil and a bucket load of hospitality. Don't think he won much money though. We're talking, of course, of traitors during the show, and Jamie Vardy's off to Arsenal. We'll be having a look at that, seeing what we think about it. And of course we'll be giving our tributes to Muhammad Ali in the company of George Galloway. It went so well last week, we've got an extra hour this week again, and we're not going to waste it. 08717 22 3344. We'll have a bit of Listtography, we'll have a bit of heroes and villains. We'll be looking ahead to Andy Murray, of course, as well. And we might even talk about certain possible Everton manager. You're listening to the Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, and I'm delighted to say that having made it back alive from a day of drinking with Alan Brazil, it is Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. No, I mean, listen, days out with Al are never dangerous because that man is a machine.
Yes.
I've never seen him misbehave in drink. I've never seen him get himself into a problem.
Indeed.
And he's a good guy to be with because it keeps you in order as well.
If only everybody was like that.
If only everybody was like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right. Oh, I mean, there were some terrible tales about Talk Sport adventures on Friday,
really?
but I'm not going to go into them.
I don't think we should.
I definitely not.
Legal problems.
Not only that, but professional reputation could be on the line, and we're not having that, OK?
Very true, yeah.
Now, I suffered a shattering...
Are there some pictures?
Oh, sorry?
Are there pictures?
There are pictures, I'm afraid, yeah. Whoever's got those pictures, believe me,
that's
sitting on
worth
a gold mine. Sitting on a gold mine, I'd say.
Worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, so can't say any more.
No, anyway,
we should move on from that.
What about a shattering blow to my confidence last night?
What's that?
Chatting to my mother after Epsom, how's your day and all that. Yes,
well,
fine,
she took your call. Like in the evening on a Saturday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She doesn't normally, does she? She normally sees the phone light up with your name on it.
No.
It's any time after 4 p.m. on a Saturday.
No, not
absolutely
at all.
Bad idea to answer the phone.
Not at all.
Oh, Mum.
No. Do you mind? Do you think I am? Do you think I feel disrespectful to ring my mother when I was bladderated?
Well, we've all seen the famous picture of you trying to hail a cab outside of Goodison Park.
No, I don't think we have.
That one. By the way, that picture of you and Mr. Brazil that was put out yesterday.
Yes.
Do you know what everyone said you looked like?
Who?
A coach driver.
A coach driver? That's not very nice.
Yeah.
What, because I had a tie and Al didn't?
Because you had one of those coach driver's ties on. There's a stripy tie.
It wasn't a coach driver's tie.
Like you dressed like a coach driver.
It's an official Everton tie.
I think somebody's hit on a real nerve there. I think that's absolutely what you dress like.
Official Everton tie. And by the way, Mr. Brazil was the only man in the whole of the hospitality tent we were in, courtesy of our friends at Corals. Thank you, Simon, very much indeed for your wonderful hospitality, who didn't have a tie on.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. He's the star, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he very much is. He knows everybody.
So how did it go?
In that business.
Did you make any money?
I'll tell you about that in a second. Okay. I want to tell you first about the shattering blow to my morale last night. I was talking to my mum on the phone.
Yeah.
And she said, yes, so what's your show, 11 till 1?
She said, who's this?
No, 11 till 1. And I said, no, Mum, I said 11 till 2, 3 hours of great listening.
Yeah.
She said, well, Andy Murray starts at 1:30. I mean...
Well, because you don't watch the tennis and listen to Talk Sport.
Hang on. I don't remember her giving birth to Andy Murray, you know what I mean?
No.
So,
Well, she's probably trying to forget that she gave birth to you.
Where are the private...
Don't forget, when you were born, you were born with that bizarre ball of fat in your stomach. You had to go back to the hospital and have it removed.
That's right, yeah. The truth has never been told about that one.
As somebody might have said, they threw the wrong bit away.
Oh, that's very nice, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, getting back to yesterday, it was a splendid day. I mean, I've never been to the Epsom Derby before on a dull day.
Yeah.
But as the taxi took me up there across the downs and the traffic started getting a bit heavier and all that.
You could have walked there, actually. It's quite close.
I could have walked, to be honest, but I had a nice suit on and I had the wrong shoes on. I had my...
You had a nice suit on?
Yeah, a nice suit.
You don't own a nice suit.
I do. And
was it blue?
Leather loafers.
Leather?
My shoes,
Oh, very nice.
Penny loafers,
What size?
They're size 9.5.
No way.
What's so funny about 9.5?
Because your shoes... I mean, somebody actually sent out a tweet at the weekend after we did that video for the Evening Standard, saying that your feet are so small, you should actually wear horseshoes. You've got tiny feet.
I haven't got tiny feet.
My shoe size is 9, right?
Yes.
You're telling me that you've got bigger feet than me?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
We may have to measure them.
No, I can prove it.
Wow.
The shoes
you can easily prove it. Take your shoes off and put them down.
All right. Okay.
There's no way that your shoes are a size 9.
Anyway, I'm talking now with my head bowed down.
Try to stay near the microphone. It's radio.
Sure, because I'm not having this, you see. Everything I say about things in life, you contradict, right?
Okay.
Now, this is my trainer, okay? And I've just taken it off.
Yeah.
Right?
What does it say?
If you look on the tongue, it's got measurements.
Yeah.
NikeBetterWorld.com.
Oh, yeah.
US measurement, 11. Euro measurement, 45.
Really?
CM...
Your feet are giant.
Hang on. CM measurement, 29.
That's ridiculous.
What's CM?
CM, centimetres.
Right. UK,
Yeah.
10.
So you... Yeah, but why have you got size 10 shoes?
Because I've got size 10 feet, you fool.
Well, yeah, but you're only
Sometimes
5'5".
So, 5 foot 8 3/4. Sometimes I have 9.5, and sometimes I have 10.
I want to. Now you put them on, and I'll feel where your toe is.
Don't be ridiculous, you idiot. Do you admit that says 10?
Yeah, I agree they are size 10.
Thank you.
But I don't believe that your feet are that size.
Anyway, so going across the Downs on the old taxis, traffic's building up. I thought, I've never experienced this before, and I think it does affect the attitude of the crowd on the day.
Yeah, because you're expecting it to be warm and sunny, and people have a lot of champagne, they get a bit carried away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, went to the Holiday Inn Express. Yeah, right.
You need more brand names in this section.
Well, no, this is the point. You see, the reason I say that is that I think I've stayed there before when there hasn't been an Epsom Derby on. I think it's about.
Why?
I don't know.
Why would you stay there? You live down the road.
I've no idea. But for whatever reason,
it wasn't for some nefarious purpose, was it?
No, I think we were doing a show at Epsom the next day, but it wasn't like the Derby or something.
Yeah, but you only lived 10 miles away.
Yeah, I know, but I think I was
Why
doing
was
the
you
breakfast.
Talk Sporting to spend the night in a hotel?
Probably because I had something on the night before and didn't want to go home or something. But anyway, point of the story is...
Yeah, what is the point of the story?
Point of the story is, first of all, the taxi couldn't get out through the gates of the Holiday Inn Express. And then secondly, had a second security barrier. Then they wouldn't let me in to the hotel.
Well, I really thought you were an unsavoury character.
Until I identified myself.
I suppose it direct you to the coach park.
Then Al had a... you're an idiot. And then I had a sort of, a verbal sort of set to with somebody in there who was trying to kick me out. It was ridiculous. But the problem is, unless you were a resident, you weren't allowed in.
Yeah.
And then when you got in, the Holiday Inn Express, which I think is fair to say is, designed as a budget chain, right? Suddenly turned into a 5-star hotel. Everything had been, the people had moved in.
The lobby had been sort of sorted out.
They put curtains all over the place and big ornaments and fountains and all this kind of stuff.
Any ice sculptures?
I didn't say an ice sculpture, but I mean they turned it into a glamorous sort of luxury thing for the day.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to talk to Rupert Bell a bit later on in the show because he'll give us a much more kind of even-handed view of the day.
No, I didn't see Rupert.
As opposed to what you can sort of vaguely remember through the haze of Pinot Grigio.
Yeah. Well,
So, how about any wins though? I mean, because your policy is as we said earlier, to Georgie and Mickey, to only bet on hot jockeys that wear blue.
Yeah, went disastrously
wrong. But there was
wrong.
11 jockeys wearing blue.
Went disastrously wrong, right? What happened was in the first 5 races, I bet £20 each way on the 2 horses whose jockeys were wearing blue silks, okay?
Yeah,
right. So that's a total of £80 a race.
Uh-huh.
And after 5 races...
And did they not come anywhere?
I got a few bob back on one of the races in the middle somewhere, but I must have finished 3rd or 4th or something, I don't know. And,
but in the Derby itself, there was loads of them wearing blue, so what did you do?
No, the 3 horses I picked didn't get in the first 3.
But were they wearing blue, though, is what I'm saying?
Yes, I thought they were.
Yeah.
I thought they were.
Because the winner wore green, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. That's the problem. But anyway, point of my story is...
What is the point of your story?
After the 5th race...
I mean, we haven't got anywhere yet. We've got Andy Murray to talk about, Jamie Vardy
after the
to talk
5th
about,
race,
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, well, very, very sad to hear about Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
After the 5th race, I had £15 left. From 400.
That's an awful lot of money to lose.
I know.
I mean, you're supposed to be the man of the people. There'll be people out there who don't make £400 a week.
Well, I've had
to just blow it willy-nilly on a couple of horse races.
No. I had to rearrange the structure of my finances this morning to plug the gap, to be honest. That's the problem.
You to take another 500 out.
Well, no. There isn't 500 to take out, I'm afraid, in this particular instance. And I had to go cap in hand to Mr. Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
And take a couple of hundred from him.
Well, luckily he had plenty of cash on him.
Well,
he always does that, doesn't he?
Well, he's...
The great thing about Mr. Brazil is that not only does he have great wads of cash on him, but he often has different currencies.
That's true,
I mean, I was in the kitchen one morning before he came on to do the sports breakfast, and he pulled a wad out. Yeah. And I said, that's
he had a load of euros yesterday.
But he had Barbadian dollars with him one day. Oh, no. 1,000 Barbadian dollars.
No, he tried to fob me off with the load of euros. And, I'd had a couple of glasses of the old... Vino Collapso and walked off towards the betting stall inside the Corals tent, which is very convenient, actually, and realised I was dealing in a foreign currency.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they take euros, don't they?
Oh, I don't know.
Now, anyway, we've got to talk about Muhammad Ali in a little while
indeed.
with George Galloway. We're also going to talk about Jamie Vardy and his sort of treachery, because I was amazed.
See, that's a strong word.
Yeah, well, I was amazed that he decided to jump ship quite so soon.
Yeah, I'm going to make
Do you think he's being motivated by his missus?
Well, I don't know. I can't say
Mrs.
that.
Vardy.
I don't know their relationship.
So soon after their wedding.
But we will talk about that, because I think it'll start a flow of players out of Leicester if he goes. I think he'll just say, well, hang on, he's gone for 120. What am I doing staying here for 70? You know what I mean? Or something like that. But the main issue that I want to pronounce upon right now, because he starts at 1:30, as my mother reminded me this afternoon.
Are you sure it starts at 1:30?
Well, maybe the programme starts at 1:30.
I think it's 2 o'clock.
Yeah, well, the programme starts.
I think she was just saying that because she doesn't want to listen to the last half hour of you babbling on.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
But
the women's fine. The women's doubles fine at the moment.
Is it? Right,
No,
okay.
do you know who's playing?
Eh?
Do you know who's playing?
No.
Oh, well,
Does anybody care about doubles? I don't think so.
Does anybody care?
Unless Andy...
It's a grand slam.
Unless Andy Murray's brother's playing, nobody knows the name of any
I'm pretty
doubles
sure
players.
he's not playing in the women's doubles
But
final.
anyway, my pronouncement is...
He's pretty versatile, but he is, in fact, banned from playing as a woman.
Andy Murray, vous êtes le champion français.
Isn't that a mushroom?
No, vous êtes as you are.
No, I mean champignon.
No, French champion, that's what I'm saying.
You are a
Victor! Français Victor! Andy Murray! Allez, Andy! Allez, Andy!
Get lost. This is TalkSport. TalkSport, we are the two mics, and this, of course, is the warm-up. We're here until 2 o'clock when Andy Murray goes onto the centre court, of course, at Roland Garros to try and win, for the first time, the French Open. Novak Djokovic is the only thing that stands in his way. Porky, of course, is tipping Andy Murray to win it, which is very bad news for Andy Murray, because the Porky jinx will be in full flow. Now, let's talk about Jamie Vardy, because obviously Muhammad Ali is the big story in all the papers this morning, and we'll be talking about how some of the papers have done that. And George Galloway is going to be here to give us his appreciation of it as well. So everything's been kind of wiped off the front and back pages for Muhammad Ali. So, because otherwise, normally the Jamie Vardy story, Jamie Vardy going to Arsenal, apparently he's having his medical today, right? And the word is that Roy Hodgson would like to see the deal done possibly before they all head off to France tomorrow.
I know.
You know,
it's not a lot to do with him, really, is
I'm
it?
really surprised that he was so quick off the mark, like a sort of, like a greyhound out of the traps.
I don't think
to get out of Leicester.
I don't think it's any secret within Leicester and the environs of that club that actually this might not necessarily have been, an initiative from other clubs. I think Jamie Vardy has had a very clear
you really think in the middle of this season he was already thinking, I'm off at the end of this season no matter what happens?
I can't say that. What I can say is I think Jamie Vardy had a very clear view of how he can reasonably take his career forward, having become a winner in a Premier League winning
but surely,
side.
Because of the fairy tale of Leicester
champions.
City, right? The fairy tale of Leicester, the way that the city was bound together by it all. It was not a usual, it wasn't just any old Premier League champions year, was it? It wasn't just, Chelsea winning another trophy. It wasn't just Manchester City winning another trophy.
No, I agree with all of that.
Or even Manchester United, or even Spurs. This was a fairy tale that has been written about around the world. Supposedly, he's going to star in a movie made about him and his role in the thing, all the goals that he scored. And you would have thought that after what Claudio Ranieri said about, the great project and that he was going to stay next year and, it might be tough, but they wanted to try and see if they could stay in the top four, that he would want to be part of that.
Yeah, but the only thing I
know that footballers are mercenaries. We all get that.
Yeah.
But, really?
But the only thing I can say is that he is 29 years of age. Now, he's got...
Well, so what? You've said yourself, Ryan Giggs played till he was 40.
Yeah, I know, but the three peak years for a striker are between about 29 and 32 because they've got all the, the body build, the body mass, the knowledge, the experience,
he's only been in the Premier League a couple of seasons.
I know, but the thing is, Mike, if we believe what we are reading, and I believe that most of what we read is true because people have very good sources. His wages are going to go from £70,000 or £80,000 a week to 120.
Yeah, he's going to make 24 million over the course of the next 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, 40 grand a week on top of what he's getting now is 2 million a year. Over 3 years is 6 million.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think any man could turn down the opportunity to earn an extra 6 million, even after he's paid all his taxes. That's another £3 million.
Well, you've worked all this out, haven't you?
Yeah, of course I have. Yeah. And
do you think that if it wasn't for him just just getting married
Yeah.
to a woman who has been rather unkindly described as a serial wag, right, that he might not be moving quite so quickly.
Well, that's a shocking thing to say.
Why?
You're trying to insinuate that he's been, his head's been turned by his wife, they just got wed and
Well, it's
and
not a
all
question
that.
of his head being
I mean,
turned. Sometimes the loyalty thing, and I know that a lot of people say, well, what do you expect loyalty from footballers? In this situation, I do expect loyalty, because this is what Leicester have built up from nowhere, right? And now suddenly he's off.
Yeah.
Who else is going to leave?
Well, you're living in cloud cuckoo land.
I don't think so.
You are living in cloud cuckoo land.
Well, you think I'm an old romantic?
I think you are a bit, to be honest. I mean, everybody like to say, well, the magical fairy tale of Leicester. Well, that's over. That's happened. So it's going to happen again. Yeah, of course it is.
See, it's people like you. No wonder the FA can't run itself properly. People like you working at the FA with that sort of attitude.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, for instance, it looks like Manchester United's first signing is going to be Ibrahimovic, right?
Ibrahimovic.
Yes.
Not Ibrahimovic.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ibrahimovic.
He objects to that pronunciation of his name.
Indeed, Ibrahimovic, right? How many clubs has he played for?
Yeah, but Zlatan
10.
Ibrahimovic is a different kettle of fish. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was not playing for a team that was 5,000 to 1 to win the league.
Yeah.
He was playing for a team that was 5,000 to 1 on to win the league.
But
he's played for all the big clubs in Europe.
But
Vardy's just made the big time and he's jumping ship.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, it's your argument is specious.
Not at all specious.
It is.
Good word though.
Yeah, but it is. I'll tell you why. Because Mr. Ibrahimovic realised his worth and exploited it ruthlessly to the full. Right now, I tell you something. If Jamie Vardy didn't exploit his worth, he actually is letting down his family.
All right.
In a big way.
Well, let me tell you what
I'm
the
afraid
difference
he's
is.
got to, and I'm sorry Leicester fans listening now will be up in arms, but it's true.
Well, maybe I'd be interested to know what Leicester fans are thinking about
ask
this.
them to give us a call.
They might actually give them the number then.
Eh?
Give them the number.
Somebody's taking it down.
You've been working here for 18 years.
Yeah, I know.
You know this. 08717 22 33 44.
Of course I know that, you idiot.
Because some Leicester fans might be saying, well, you know what, if that's how he feels, then good riddance. But this is not, like any football story. Like I said, this is an entire town, an entire city, which is it's a one football town city.
Yes.
It's a bit like Newcastle. The crowd get behind them.
It's a one football team city.
Is that what I not said?
You said one football town city.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I mean, again, if you wish to, have a competition on how many mistakes each one of us makes over the next 3 hours, I don't think you're going to win it.
Oh well, I think you'll find.
You've already called Ibrahimovic.
No. It depends on how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Listen, what I was going to say is this: if I was a Leicester fan, I would have exactly the attitude that you've just stated, and that is, Jamie, if you don't want to play for us anymore, bye bye. Thank you for what you've done, and go and play for somebody else.
And maybe you're right, and maybe Leicester have to get used to the fact that they're now going to have to churn around a little bit like Southampton have had to do with managers, with players. Yeah. Everybody starts picking people away, a bit like Atletico Madrid have had to do.
Indeed.
And maybe they have to get used to that. And maybe Claudio Ranieri can win the league again without Vardy.
Maybe
but I very much doubt it.
Maybe he can.
I just think that he has had a slight amount of influence put upon him.
I think that's so unkind of you to say that.
Mrs. Vardy.
Don't you think a wife, a newly married wife, should have a say in the future of her husband's career? Becky, yeah. I think you've been extremely unkind.
She's also had a bit of a say in the dealings that he has with some members of his family.
Well, hang on. You're trying to make out...
His own parents weren't even at the wedding.
By describing her as a serial wag...
I didn't say that.
You're saying
I said some people have described her like that.
Yeah, well, including you.
No, not me.
By association, you have, which is terribly unkind.
Absolute rubbish.
What you're saying is you're trying to portray this lady as a flighty, airhead type, woman who's been chasing footballers all her life and all that kind of stuff. And that is very unkind and very wrong. And I tell you what, some might say, well, actually, I'm glad she has told him to move on to another club who'll give another 50 grand a week, because if she hadn't had him there, he might not have done. Yeah. And he's got to cash in on his worth. I think what you will find, this is what I think.
She's there.
She's a very nice and attractive lady, and I hope they have a great unison. Now, what I was going to say is...
Is that a euphemism for something?
No, it means I hope they have a great life together, because they're going to be very wealthy.
Well,
and I like wealthy people.
One of the papers
wealthy
last
people
week
are good people.
Said that she was going to lock him into a... She'd be upset he's had to go to the Emirates for a medical, because she was going to lock him in and basically, have horizontal... what was it?
Refreshment.
Horizontal refreshment for days on end before he goes off to the Euros.
Well, what's wrong with that? She's his wife.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it at all, yeah. But anyway, what I was going to say was, I think what could happen is that when the other key members of that Leicester side see that he's gone, he's actually broken the dam, if you see what I mean.
Well, there's going to be agents swarming around,
not only that, Mike,
they're going to be promising people like Mahrez, 200,000 a week.
Not only that, now that they see Vardy's gone, the following clubs are now in a battle to get the next best and the one after that Leicester player.
Yeah.
Everton, with their new owner, will want to make a really stellar signing in the summer to say...
we're going to get to Everton, aren't we?
Yeah, Koeman will be the manager by the time this show ends.
Is that another prediction?
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah.
Should we have double or nothing on that?
No, we won't.
Yeah,
no.
we should.
No, we will not.
No, we should.
No, we will not.
First of all, he hasn't been yet named as the manager, right? So the money is still not in your hands.
Yes.
But why don't we do a double or quits on whether or not he's named as the Everton manager by the end of this show?
I didn't say named. I said he will be the Everton manager. He might not necessarily be publicly released, but I happen to know that I believe he will be.
You are
okay?
very fancy footwork this morning.
What I'm saying is, so Everton will want a stellar signing. Spurs are definitely in it for business this season. They feel that they could have won the Premier League last season.
Yeah, see, they've just secured Hugo Lloris for another 3 years.
Hugo Lloris, exactly. Yeah. Manchester United are on the comeback trail under Jose.
Yeah.
Manchester
Zlatan's
City
going there.
Zlatan's going there.
City have got that Gundogan guy coming, even though he's got
not only that, but they've got
dodgy knee.
A new manager who can't afford to fall behind Manchester United. Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible... Chelsea, of course, with their new manager. Absolutely right. Yeah. So you've got an incredibly competitive Premier League, and all those 5 clubs will now be chasing. Who's the next one they'd want? Would it be Carney?
Who?
Carney?
Yeah. Yeah, very possibly.
Yeah, or would it be Drinkwater? I'd go for Drinkwater myself.
Could be Drinkwater.
I think he's a terrific
who are you talking
player.
about buying these people?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I've just named you the 5 clubs who will be competing for them.
So here's another question for you. If, in fact, Jamie Vardy does sign for Arsenal before the Euros, do you think that will make him a starter in the England team? Because you know how Roy Hodgson likes players from big teams.
Do you know
He'll
what?
suddenly go,
it's a very
plays
good
for
point.
Arsenal now.
It's a very good point.
You better start him.
I think that's a really good point. When you see an England team sheet, you don't see many players from Leicester, Southampton.
We know that's why
we
know that's why he dropped Drinkwater. If Drinkwater was playing for Arsenal, he'd be in.
He's the only Leicester player in the England squad.
Yeah.
Leicester have just won the Premier League title. Yeah. They've got a lot of English players.
And he doesn't
want
to start
one in the squad.
And he doesn't want to start.
I think it's ridiculous.
And he wants to play him in a square hole.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good point, that.
I think it's a good point. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, okay.
Coming up next, Mr. George Galloway is going to be joining us. Big friend of yours, Mr. Galloway. Gave you a big hug the last time you saw him in Talksport.
Well, that's because we have an intellectual plane.
Comrades in arms.
We have an intellectual plane upon which we both drift, if you see what I mean.
You're about the same size.
Not a high plains drifter. We have an intellectual status to which we are both...
calm down. What are you doing with your cup, by the way?
Achievable.
What are you doing with your cup?
I'm just wiping it,
Why, is it filthy?
No, it's just that the dishwashers at Talksport, I don't believe always bring them up to full brilliance.
Well, we haven't got any lights today.
I like to polish the cups before I put it to my mouth.
Really?
In case there's any germs on it, actually.
Yeah.
I always have a cloth here to do it. No, it's not weird. It's not weird. I don't want to catch, the lurgy or something, okay?
Really? Okay. This is the warm-up with the 2 mics. We're here for another couple of weeks, and then a few more after that as well. So a lot of Sunday working for us. Now, all the papers this morning have done a magnificent job in publishing lots and lots of beautiful black and white photographs, in particular of Muhammad Ali, who died just over the course of the last weekend, really. It was Friday morning, I think you and I looked at the papers and saw that, he was probably looking not in very good health.
Exactly.
But, it was announced early yesterday that Muhammad Ali had indeed passed away. We're going to talk now to one of his biggest fans, a big boxing fan, and of course a big fan of yours as well, Mr. Parry, Mr. George, Mr. George Galloway. George, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning to you both.
Yeah, morning, George.
I mean, it's been one of those years, hasn't it, for some very, very big names in various different worlds passing away. But there can be none bigger, really, than Muhammad Ali. He was just a remarkable figure, a remarkable man.
Icon.
And a phenomenon, really, as George Foreman called him.
I think that's right. They don't get any bigger, and the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And a mighty oak fell this weekend, as you have rightly said. And as the newspapers have done a great job, I don't often praise the newspapers, but the coverage of Ali's life and times has been fantastic, especially for young men like me and Mike Parry, who remember it all in black and white on the TV. I'm just writing about it now. The 60s passed as a black and white TV boxing blur, with Ali shuffling and lacerating with his left jab, all that came before him. He was a truly phenomenal sportsman, but of course he was also much, much more than that, and that's what's given him this truly legendary status. I mean, other than Nelson Mandela, you would probably say Muhammad Ali was the best-known man on the planet. That's something to be, yeah?
Definitely, George. I mean, look, we all know what a great boxer he was, and in a minute I want to ask you whether he can be compared to the modern-day heavyweights. But just to get down to what you've just touched upon, can you explain to our listeners, to our audience, just what a big step he took in the 60s, the early 70s, when he decided to protest because of racism in America? Nobody else had done it before, had they?
Not of his stature, no. Black people who were more on the margins had done so, and of course great figures like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King had been gunned down for doing so. But Ali, with his global reach, when he made that stand, it reverberated across the world in quite an amazing way now. It started in 1967, so only 3 years after Liston failed to get up for the 8th round in the epic championship-winning bout. So he only had 3 years uninterrupted, you might say, before they served the draft on him. And he said in words which I think ring powerfully even today, you want me to go and fight for you? Well, you won't stand up for my rights to eat in the same restaurant as you in my own country. I mean, don't forget, Ali came back from Rome with an Olympic gold medal and having worn the stars and stripes. And he walked into a restaurant in his own city and was ordered out because they didn't serve black people in that restaurant. And he went on to the bridge and threw his medal into the river.
Although some people now say that was, I mean, it's an incredible story, and I mean, I found myself, George, I was just going to say, I mean, that story now appears to be, possibly slightly embroidered, shall we say, because nobody really knows what happened to that medal. But I was trying to explain to my younger, I know you've got younger children as well. Yesterday, as we were watching some of the footage on Sky and stuff, mine are like 11 and 9, and the only way I could describe him to them was to say that if you can imagine somebody being many times, more famous than David Beckham in every corner of every, street in the world, he's the only person, he was the first ever sort of proper global superstar, wasn't he?
He was, and of course television was becoming king then. He was a master of television. People of a certain age will remember the regular appearances he made with Michael Parkinson on the BBC, where he frankly mesmerized the audience. There had never been anyone like him. You see, he was handsome. There had been handsome black men before. He was big and strong. There had been plenty of those. But he was also really smart. I mean, one of his couplets, it's more than a couplet, it's a rhyme, that I just saw yesterday. He said on the draft issue, this draft is white men sending black men to kill yellow men for a country they stole from red men.
Yeah.
This is genius.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Genius.
It is.
You could write a whole book explaining that. Yeah. But he explained it in one rhyme.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
He was very spontaneous. A very good friend of mine called Michael Brennan, who's a photographer, worked a lot with Ali, and he'd got into a bit of a punch-up himself at some point, turned up in front of Ali to take his picture. And used to call him Limey. And he went, "Hey, Limey, you been fighting?" And Brennan said, "Well, I got into a bit of a dust-up in a bar." And he's like, "Not too good at it, are you? Stick to taking pictures." And it was just brilliant,
He was, he really was rapier sharp in the ring and out of it. And this had never been seen before. But as I'm just writing now, it was the beginning of a new era. You see, Sonny Liston had been made a kind of honorary white man before the fight because everybody, or almost everybody, my father was an exception, I must say, wanted to see this Louisville lip fattened.
Yes. And
they invested in Liston, who had been a convict and was a very unpleasant figure by all accounts. But everybody was rooting for him. And the new kind of black man, who didn't just look you in the eye as an equal, but knew that he was something special and even better than the people who wanted to see his defeat. He looked big and proud, and this began an era that you remember the Olympic Games with John Carlos and the others with the black gloves and so on. Yeah. It was an era where black people burst through the glass ceiling. Well, it wasn't glass; it was metal ceiling in America. And now we've got a black president in the United States. So Ali began, or rather accelerated, that whole process in a way that, when you look back on it now, is really quite mesmeric.
Absolutely mesmeric. George, one of his famous quotes was that his fights are won before he gets into the ring. We all know what he means about that, the manager. And there can never have been a bigger example of that than the classic fight against George Foreman, which was sheer mental genius, wasn't it?
It was, and it was historic, of course. It marked the third gaining of the championship, still never been done again, and had never been done before. 3 times champion, and he had lost his ability to dance then. We are talking about now coming on to the late 1970s, so a long time after he'd won the title in 1964. So he had to fight a different kind of fight and stand and soak the punches of one of the most formidable heavyweights ever, George Foreman. And he just let him punch himself out. Yeah, I
actually saw there was so much stuff on social media the last couple of days, but I saw one clip from that fight where Ali's leaning back in the corner and he actually dodges 22 of George Foreman's punches. Extraordinary.
Yeah, and the extraordinary thing, George, was George Foreman interviewed said at that time, Ali said to him, "Is that the best you got, George?" And Foreman had to say, "Yeah, actually it is," and that was the end of the fight.
Well, that's it. I mean, George Foreman was a phenomenal puncher, but he didn't have Ali's smartness. And George ended up advertising barbecues, and Ali is revered. And I mean, billions of people will be saddened by his demise this weekend, talking about him in every corner of the earth. This is a phenomenal achievement in life, especially as for 30 years now he's been on this descent through Parkinson's disease into a man that had been so famous for talking but couldn't talk to us.
Well, do you know, that's the saddest aspect of it, George, is what you just pointed out. I saw President Clinton saying a friend of mine died yesterday, Muhammad Ali, but for the last 30 years, we don't know if Muhammad Ali approved of Clinton or not. We don't know what Muhammad Ali thought about the fall of communism and all those sort of things he would have pronounced upon, wouldn't he, if he'd have still had his mind.
Exactly. I don't know if he was able to talk in family settings, but we never heard anything from him for 30 years, and yet we're still talking about him now today. And I dare say in the rest of your show, there'll be many people calling up, many people expressing views. And this is a measure of the greatness of the man, someone who has been silent for the last 30 years. And we're still talking about what it was like when he was talking.
Sure, absolutely.
Incredible stuff. Now, George, you're going to be on the talk radio frequency pretty shortly, are you not?
Yes, I'm on the 24th, the day after the referendum, and I'm really looking forward to it. I really enjoyed working with Mike and the rest of the guys at Talk Sport.
Indeed.
And, of course, this is the sister station. Yeah. You're not deserting Talk Sport if you just adjust the dial a little bit and from time to time dip into the old talk radio. And so it's the mother of all talk shows every Friday night between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. I'm hoping that we get back the intelligent University of the Airwaves atmosphere that we had.
Yeah, because we currently have that title here on Talk Sport, George.
You do.
As you know.
Yeah, indeed. Of the Airwaves, but I'm the Oxford University.
Yes. Well, Porky couldn't get in there, unfortunately, but we should look forward to it. The place will be a podcast of this coming out a little bit later on. This is very harsh from the midfield general who's tweeted in at the two mics. He said, I didn't think I'd hear anyone talk more rubbish than Porky on your show. What? Take a bow, George Galloway. That's a bit harsh.
Yeah, it is a bit harsh.
I thought he did rather well. I thought he said some interesting things.
Incredibly measured analysis of Muhammad Ali's life and career.
Exactly right. Yes. Now, quite a few people have got things to say about Leicester and the Jamie Vardy situation.
Yeah.
Rodney says this. You might remember this from a few months back. The Vardy thing leads back to what you said, Mike, about him driving in the Bentley. From that point, it was clear he would jump ship at the first chance. Gabrielle says, here's the irony, Vardy will have won more with Leicester than he will at Arsenal.
well, maybe, but they've got 3 years to try and win something there, isn't he?
And Alex says this. This is Vardy's time to make money. He only made the big time 2 or 3 years ago, not like Rooney, who's been minted since he was 18, which I suppose is
Well,
fair
look,
enough.
I can't blame any man for wanting to improve his life and style and
because
standards.
to you, money is everything.
Well, I think it is everything. I think, everybody says, health is everything.
Yeah.
But if you're unhealthy, you're much more comfortable in your unhealthiness if you've got a lot of money.
No.
You are.
Not true.
Look.
Well, because everyone who is wealthy, and you might even attest to this, because I didn't even know you weren't that wealthy at the time, when you became ill, and you were 36 hours from death, which, as I've often described it, is not close enough.
That's very nice, isn't it?
Basically,
Thank you. That's kind.
You realised that the most important thing in your world was your health.
Yeah, but then
no matter how much money you had.
But then when I was being asked to pay 1,350 quid every time they wanted to put me through a body scanner, and I could speed the process up by being able to afford that instead of having to wait for 10 days or something like that, money was important.
Yeah.
You know?
And
that's what I'm saying. I don't wish to say that maliciously, but if you've got money in life, you get a better deal. It's as simple as that. It's the way the world works.
Tell everybody what you fear most.
Poverty.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do.
Now, because it's Sunday, right?
Yes.
And you would normally be probably attending some church or other in the Sunday morning.
Well, which church would I be at?
You'd be at St Mary's
in Ulverstone. Thank you very much indeed.
Which, incredibly, you actually got right.
Yeah, you didn't think I knew the name, did you?
No, I didn't. I think you've started to write things down, because don't forget, you've been accused of being a cheat in the quiz on Friday.
No, I haven't. No, you've accused me of being a cheat. Nobody
everyone
else
on Twitter has accused you.
Rubbish.
And just before we get into the next hour, I want everyone to go onto Too Much TV and watch the video of the quiz. Please do. Because you got so many right. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I might actually ask you some of the same questions again in the next hour.
Okay.
Because you won't remember them.
No, that's fine. And by the way, people, when you study that video, what he's trying to insinuate is that I had bits of paper on the desk with answers written on them. So study it with a what's it called? Not a microscope. Yeah, microscope, that's right. And you will be able to see how straightforward and honest I was, as I always am in that quiz. I got 7 out of 10, by the way.
No, you got 6. Actually.
I didn't. I got 7.
Anyway,
I got the first question
because
right.
it is Sunday.
I'll pass it.
Because it is Sunday, what we'd like to do is have a little spiritual guidance from you, as ever.
Okay.
So I've got, once again, a selected passage from the Bible that we're going to ask you to interpret for us.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sounds like the abominable Dr. Phibes. Now, today's sermon has been selected from Corinthians 1.
Right. Corinthians 1, I know it well, yeah.
Chapter 13, verses 4 to 8.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yep.
I want you to have a listen to this.
Okay.
And interpret it for a modern-day family.
Audience, yeah, okay.
Or an audience out there on a Sunday.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, it's about a subject you know very little about.
Oh?
But I shall start now.
Okay.
Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonour others. It is not self-seeking.
Yes.
It is not easily angered.
Yes.
It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth.
Yeah.
It always protects, always trusts,
yes,
always hopes,
yes,
always perseveres.
Yes.
When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child.
Yeah.
When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me.
Yeah.
For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully.
Okay.
Even as I am fully known.
Okay.
Goes a bit Donald Rumsfeld at the end.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so
right.
let's see.
Well, do you know what? You couldn't be blamed if you thought that Corinth, who wrote that, right? In Corinthians, that was the name of the guy who wrote Corinthians.
Was that his name?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Was there a lot of them then?
What?
Was there a lot of the Corinthians?
No, they were like a group of people.
Were they?
The Corinths, yeah. Now,
I thought you meant that was his name.
No, it was his name. He was head Corinth.
So
seriously.
Corinth.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to say is,
go on.
You couldn't be blamed if you felt that the bloke who wrote that had actually been listening to John Lennon's version of Love.
Really?
Have you ever listened to it?
Which version
Love
of Love?
Is all, love is me,
Why are you
love
singing?
is this, love... Because John Lennon's
Well, maybe John
song,
Lennon nicked it from Corinthians.
Well, I'm beginning to wonder whether he did.
I think they wrote that first,
to
be honest.
No, yeah. I'm beginning to wonder whether he did. You know, love is me, me and you. Love is
You've almost certainly got that wrong.
When we're through and all this kind of stuff, right? You know, and it is all very similar and that kind of stuff. Now, what that is written about, in my view, because you have to interpret the Bible, because none of it's on film or, audio.
Do you think
or
it's a message
like
to Jamie Vardy?
No, I think it's a message to the world to look after your dog. Because
What?
Yeah, it is. Because unconditional...
What's dog's got to do with it?
Unconditional love is something a dog gives you.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It does.
Does?
Very
You've got
true.
a dog? Yeah,
It's the
okay.
only thing that's ever given me, apart from my children, the dog, yeah.
Yes, okay, yeah. And, of course, who was the famous president? It was...
Roosevelt, wasn't it?
It was either Roosevelt or his successor, who was his successor?
Truman?
Truman, that's right, Truman. I think it was Harry Truman.
Harry S.
I think it was Truman who said, if you're in Washington, if you want a friend, get a dog. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So that's
He nicked that from John Lennon as well.
No, he didn't. No. John Lennon was only just born, actually, as Harry Truman was taking over.
Yeah, right.
Now,
have you seen the time?
Yeah, but don't worry about this. Now,
we've got to get to the communion.
Yes, it's not about either of those things, however.
Right.
However, do you know what that's about?
What is it about?
That was written specifically about the moneylenders in the temple, right? Now, the thing is, one of the things Jesus got wrong, and he got a lot of stuff right, by the way, and I'm not being blasphemous here, right? But no. One of the things he got wrong was about the moneylenders in the temple. Yeah. Because the moneylenders in the temple were essential to the economy of...
Yeah, but he just didn't want them in the temple.
Of Jerusalem.
Yeah, but he didn't want them in the temple.
Well, no,
he didn't care if they were still doing it outside.
No, you've got to go where your audience is. Now, the point is... Yeah. On the basis of what Jesus said, get the moneylenders out of the temple, you wouldn't have any banks. And if you didn't have any banks, you wouldn't have an economy.
No, you just wouldn't have any
banks. Nobody would live in a house that they owned.
No, you just wouldn't have any banks in the temple.
No, he wasn't saying that.
Yeah,
he was saying banish all money. He was saying moneylenders are evil. And moneylenders are not evil. They're not.
Yeah, they are.
How can they be evil? Do you have a mortgage?
Hey? No.
You used to have a mortgage.
No, I did.
Where'd you get your mortgage from?
From a bank.
From a moneylender. Yeah. And if you didn't go to a moneylender...
Well, it doesn't mean they're nice about it, though.
No, well, hang on. How do you think the world goes
I had an endowment mortgage, right?
Yeah.
And when I sold the house, they said, do you want to keep the endowment mortgage going?
Yeah.
And I said, how much will it be worth in 10 years? And they went, less than you're putting in.
Right, yeah. Well,
so I said no.
Well, they're honest to you. But what I'm saying is, how do you think, if we have
you got a mortgage, by the way?
What?
Have you got a mortgage?
No.
How many properties have you got?
It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. You didn't ask me that question. Right. Now, what I'm saying is, if we decide to build a third runway at Heathrow, how do you think it'll be financed?
Hey?
Somebody will have to go and borrow the money to build it.
Yeah, but it won't be coming from the banks. They'll just go and raise it from somebody else.
Well, they'll have to borrow the money. Moneylenders are not evil. Moneylenders are good. Good people are people who lend money, which then...
Why don't they lend money without profiting from it?
You can't do that. You can't do that because there's no incentive then. There's no incentive for people to lend you money unless you say to them...
Well, yeah, but they don't have to profit to the tune of 25 or 26% APR.
No, it doesn't. Of course it is.
Well,
because
about 5%.
Well, it's competitive. So you say, look, I want to borrow this money.
Did Alan Brazil charge you interest when he loaned you money yesterday?
Well, not so far.
Well, I think you will.
I mean, we haven't had that discussion yet.
By the time you see him on Wednesday morning... He'll have up to the vig.
Anyway, the basic
I don't think
principle...
you know what you're talking about.
No.
I think this has completely foxed you.
No, it hasn't foxed me at all.
No, I think it has.
Why would it fox me? It hasn't foxed me at all.
You haven't explained anything.
I've explained it all to you. That's what it's all about.
It's about the third runway at Heathrow.
No.
What's it about?
No, it's about the fact that the moneylenders should never have been banished from the temple, and the unconditional love thing is about making judgment on men wrongly. And women, wrongly and irresponsibly, and that you can't just do that because you think something they're doing is anti the community. It's not anti the community, it's for the community.
Right. Well,
how do you think?
Dog come into it then?
How do you think?
Where's the dog? Why shout
Because I've just told you that. How do you think any of those guys in...
Which guys? The Corinths?
The Corinths, yeah. But those people... See, I'm sure this temple was in Nazareth, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was in Nazareth.
No, I don't think it was in Nazareth.
No, where do you think it was?
Born. He was born in a stable.
Oh, it's in Bethlehem, probably. It's probably in Bethlehem. Where do you think it was?
I've no idea where it was. I'm not the biblical expert. You go to church every Sunday.
Well, where was Jesus crucified? That was Jerusalem, wasn't it?
Calvary, wasn't it?
Calgary. Where's the hill? Where's Gethsemane?
Calgary, that's Jerusalem.
That's Jerusalem, there you go. So it's probably there, you see. And what I'm saying is... No. What?
What?
No, what I'm saying is that's what it's all about.
Just make it up as you go along.
I'm not making it up as you go along. You have to interpret these things.
What was the name of that Mel Gibson movie?
What?
What was the name of that Mel Gibson movie?
The Coming of the Christ. What are you laughing at?
It was The Passion of the Christ.
The Passion of the Christ, that's right, yeah, but the same sort of thing, wasn't it? So, literally, that's what it's all about.
I think we've got to stop soon.
No, that's what it's all about, and, by the way...
Get more sense out of Vicar of Dibley.
No, I'm glad we have these passages on a Sunday, because, of course, I believe that Sundays become far too commercialised. We don't need any more extension to the working hours. We simply don't. 10 till 4 for shops to open on a Sunday. There's plenty of time for people to get their shopping in.
Yeah.
And
where are you going after the show?
Hey?
Where are you going after the show?
I should go for lunch somewhere.
It's lucky it's not shut then.
Yeah, of course it does. And some idiot says, "Oh, we'll expand the economy. People spend more." No, they won't. If you've got a family budget of £100 a week to spend on food, it doesn't suddenly become £120 because the shops are open a few more hours on Sunday. It just means you might spend a bit more on Sunday and a bit less on Monday.
I'm getting bored now.
No, well,
Frankie in Rome says, St. Paul wrote that epistle to the Corinthians, you muppets.
Yeah, well, but it's still the Corinthians, wasn't it, who laid it down in print, if you see what I mean.
There's a football team called Corinthians. This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The warm-up with the two mics
on Talk Sport.
Good morning, good afternoon, I should say. I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to Two Mics, and we're doing the warm-up, and we'll be back for another couple of weeks after this. Porky's made it back from a hard day at Epsom. He seems to have survived another day out with Mr. Alan Brazil. We've got lots coming up in this hour. Looking ahead to the French Open final. Novak Djokovic against Andy Murray. Both of them in there for the first time, having not won it, of course, before. It went so well last week, Porky. They've given us an extra hour to deal with coming up as well.
Well, we're very happy to be here.
I'm going to be asking you about Michael Bisping in this hour as well, because he's another British champion.
Who? Yes.
Do you know who Michael Bisping is?
No, never heard of him. Who's he?
It's your favourite sport.
What?
I'll tell you about it in a minute.
Oh, it's a basketball, is it?
No. No, it's not.
Which is not my favourite sport, by the way. My least favourite sport.
You're listening
it's
to
117, 115, it's 118, 116, it's 120, 117. Rubbish.
Calm down. This is Talk Sport. Now, we're going to be doing a few things in this hour, including heroes and villains, and I can give you sort of, without wishing to give too much away, Michael Bisping may feature in my heroes and villains.
Oh, okay, that's great, good. So, as nobody's ever heard of him, that means I'm going to win the competition.
Are you absolutely sure about that?
Yeah, I'm certain, yeah.
So you have no idea who Michael Bisping is?
No.
You have no idea what sport he has just become champion in?
No.
The first Briton to win a title in this particular sport.
Is that right? Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you?
No, is it cross-country skiing?
No.
No?
Not this time of year.
No.
It's UFC.
UFC? Yeah.
The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, well, you see, that's not even a sport.
Of course it's a
sport. That's when two men locked together, roll around on the floor.
Do you know what the business is
like
worth?
They're simulating sex, and no, that's what it looks like to me, always. And
well, you must have a very odd mind.
And they stay there for about 15 minutes, and the ref blows his whistle or whatever, and they get up.
That depends if they're grappling. They can sometimes punch each other.
Yeah, well, they don't seem to do much of that to me. It's just they just sort of hug each other and grapple. That's all I ever see.
Well, it's quite a remarkable achievement, right? He only was given 17 days' notice to replace a guy who was actually injured, who couldn't fight. Over in Los Angeles, and it's the middleweight champion that he beat, called Luke Rockhold.
Really? Yeah. Well, I'm fascinated. Fantastic.
I bet you will find that you will get a lot of abuse now on Twitter.
Will I?
Because you don't know who he is.
Well, only from young kids who follow it. No sensible, mature, grown man would follow the sport, would they?
What about women? A lot of women follow the
women,
sport.
yeah. Well, but they're probably much younger. They're probably teenagers or something.
You think? Do you know what UFC as a business is worth? Because it may be being bought by some Chinese investors.
Well, yeah, but it's very popular in sort of the Far East and in America, I understand.
It's quite popular here.
It's not popular here.
What about Conor McGregor?
Who's he?
Yeah, he's a massive, fighter from Ireland.
The last Conor McGregor I ever heard of was a rally driver.
Conor McGregor, not Colin McGregor.
Colin.
That was Colin McGregor. This is Conor McGregor.
Oh, Conor, I didn't know that. Yeah. Sorry, okay.
Well, it's worth $5 billion, the business.
Okay. Well, how much do you think BT is worth?
I've no idea.
£38 billion.
Don't they run octagon fighting?
No,
BT,
they don't. No, they don't. So, I mean, it's all just semantics. It's figures. You know, it's comparisons. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we're going to have a look at some of the stories on the front pages.
Indeed.
Because obviously Muhammad Ali has dominated both the back pages and the front pages.
Yes, I agree.
A lot of papers have done lots of wraparounds.
Yeah,
I thought it was a good opportunity to tell people about some of the other stories that
you may
have spotted.
I totally agree.
Over the course of the last few hours.
I totally agree. Now, this story...
Well, what have you got?
Well, I'm going to tell you now. This story's on the front. Don't say what have you got, like dismissively, as if I mean.
What have you got is a term of speed, of trying to get you to get on with it.
Yeah, you've got to understand, mate. I'm one of the most gifted news gatherers that Fleet Street's ever had.
Gifted what?
News gatherers.
Really?
Yeah. So don't dismissively wave your hand at me.
The only thing you've ever gathered is everybody else's story.
Now then,
put them in as your own.
Listen to this. This is done by Emily Gosden, who is known to. She's the doyen of energy correspondence.
Correspondence.
Yeah, and she. What are you laughing at? And she works for the Sunday Telegraph, and it says here.
You know they've only got one reporter, the Sunday Telegraph.
Well, maybe, yeah.
No, they have. They've had a revamp over at Telegraph Towers, right?
Yeah.
They've killed off the canteen because they thought that it was being used by too many people from outside the paper.
Yeah, okay.
Right? They've started to bring in a bit of hot desking.
Yes.
And there's one guy who shall remain nameless who's put in charge of the Sunday Telegraph.
Yeah.
But he actually has
It's a
hardly
very
anything.
high salary, apparently.
It's very high salary, but hardly anything to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's only got one reporter.
He's got a political editor as well, I think.
Two reporters.
He's got two, yeah. Anyway, Emily Gosden says...
top woman.
and this is the Sunday Telegraph. She probably works at the Daily Telegraph as well, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, possibly.
But anyway, the headline on her story, lack of wind takes air out of plans for more turbines. OK?
This is
brilliant.
This is another one of your pet
No,
subjects.
here. The UK's
You're
wind
obsessed with
industry...
this.
Hang on. The UK's wind industry trade body has admitted that England is not windy enough to justify building any more onshore wind turbines.
They're having a laugh.
Hey?
They're having a laugh.
No.
It's just about one of the windiest countries in the world.
No, it's not. It's not. It's
You must
not.
be joking.
It's not. We should put these damned wind turbines should be on the top of mountains where it is windy, not in fields in
It's windy
Devon.
everywhere.
No, it's not.
We live on an island.
Hugh McNeil, who joined Renewable UK 2 months ago from the Department of Energy and Climate Change, said wind speeds were almost certainly too low in England to make any further projects viable.
That's nonsense.
The industry,
Absolute nonsense.
hang on, the industry is still reeling from the withdrawal of subsidies, and Mr. McNeil has been trying to make the business case for new onshore turbines without government support.
Why are you reading it?
However, he is now being forced to recommend that such projects are confined to other areas of the UK. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Well, it's not ludicrous.
I mean, why did we build them in the first place? They're useless. They
They're
don't
not
produce
useless.
any energy. When the
Because they're
wind
clean.
When the wind's not blowing, they don't turn round. When the wind blows too fast, they have to switch them off in case they get damaged.
Right.
They kill birds.
Do you ever think
it
of
is
yourself
alleged.
as a bit of a flat earther? On
They
this one?
make noises which are driving people insane, humming
Really?
noises.
Is that- you've been near some of
It
them?
is alleged. I'm not going to respond to that. And what's more...
None of this is based on any kind
What's
of
more,
scientific knowledge whatsoever.
They make beautiful areas of this country where you can gaze over valleys.
Yeah, but
and,
you'd rather have these beautiful. You'd rather have these.
Dale and
hang
down
on.
valley and all that kind of stuff. They ruin them. They
Up
ruin
what?
the landscape.
Up what?
You know, dales and valleys.
Uphill and down Dale, you mean?
Uphill and down Dale.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
but you'd
wandered
rather-
lonely as a cloud.
Yeah, what you'd like to have is a
Floats on
horrible,
high or
disgusting
Vale and Hill.
sort of ferry bridge style power station, pumping all sorts of pollution into the
No,
sky.
they don't pump pollution into the sky, power stations. All they pump into the sky is steam.
They do if they're coal-fired.
No, that's the only thing goes into the sky is steam. Nothing else goes into the sky.
Yeah.
It's a ludicrous idea to close down coal-fired power stations when we've got so much coal in this country. And instead of what we're doing is we're shipping in redwood trees from Canada at massive expense. And imagine the amount of fuel it takes to get a tanker across the Atlantic
Right.
full of
So is that
redwood
the best
trees.
story you could find
and
in
then
the papers?
Yeah. And then we chop
Really?
them up
What
and we
page
put
is
them
it
in.
on?
Hey?
What page is it on?
Page 1.
That's on page 1.
Yes, that's a very important story, OK?
well,
we're
Times are
reviewing the
tough at
front
Telegraph,
pages, OK?
obviously. I'm not just doing the front pages, I'm looking at some of the stories inside.
Ooh.
And I'm looking at page
Right.
13 of the Sunday Mirror.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a story you've referred to in the past, right?
Right. What
You
is
like
it?
this one. Heartbroken Robson Vicar is a shadow of himself.
Oh.
Now, do you remember Robson Green?
Yes.
Do you remember how he got involved in a bit of, what do you call it, horizontal...
Refreshment. Yes.
With the vicar's wife.
Yes.
Apparently, he's been given time off now, the vicar, to heal. After splitting up with his wife, who's been pinched by Robson Green.
Oh.
So, you know, since it's a Sunday, we're talking about all things to do with
Hang on.
spirituality.
I must find this. This is Rogerisation special,
The
isn't
Reverend Jeffrey Short. He's cut himself.
Reverend Robson.
Says he's cut himself off from his flock
Yeah.
as he tries to rebuild his life.
A vicar who's lost his wife to TV star Robson Green is so broken-hearted.
Yeah.
Been given time off by his church.
I know, shocking,
Worried
isn't it?
parishioners say he has become a shadow of himself
Yeah.
since his Filipino wife of 16 years, Zoila, left him.
Zoila.
Yeah, she's moved in with soldier star Green. What's you laughing at?
Robson Jerome.
His congregation has been told the devastated dad of two will not be back before August. This man's gone into mental meltdown by
He
the
has.
sound of it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
not good.
terrible thing, that.
It's not a good story, is it?
Oh, it's not good. It's
Now,
not
I
good.
got involved in a bit of a Twitter spat last night
Yeah, who
over
was that
another
with?
story. It was about a guy in Scotland
Right.
who used to be the political editor of the News of the World
Right.
in Scotland. He now writes for a paper called Scotland on Sunday,
Indeed.
which has so few sort of sales that
Yes.
they'd be better off just like biking it round to everybody who
That's
actually
right, yeah.
who actually wants to read it.
Yeah.
But it was
Or paying to put it into a taxi
Do you remember
to
a guy
deliver to
called?
them.
Do you remember a guy called Damien McBride?
Yes, I do,
He
yes.
was Gordon Brown's kind of chief henchman.
Did you read his book when he finished it?
I did.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
This man would have like 4 cans of strong lager on the way to work. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's quite a phenomenal sort of political figure.
Yeah, yeah.
And a bit of a
bruiser.
he
was a spin doctor. But
he was more than a spin doctor. He was kind of a bruiser.
He surpassed sort of Alistair Campbell, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Anyway, he put out a tweet yesterday. He's obviously a top Labour spin doctor still.
Yes.
But he put out a tweet yesterday, in error, basically, which would appear to have suggested that he was helping out the other side.
Right, yeah.
Because,
he went to Michael Grove, MG, Michael Grove.
Michael Gove.
Well, Gove, yeah.
Well, you see, the thing is, inside the tweet, it says, I'll send you another couple of ideas so that if MG is looking for a new line,
yes,
he will have one, right?
Yes.
Now, unbeknownst to me, this tweet went out, and it was tweeted out by this guy in Scotland called Ewan McComb.
Okay.
Right? And George, our former drive producer here, who now works for the other side,
right,
he sent out a tweet saying, I think that could be Mike Graham he's talking about.
Right, okay.
This guy then blocks me.
Why?
For no reason.
Why?
Right? So I then sort of put out a tweet, as you do, when somebody blocks. I've only ever been blocked by the man who must not be named, the Observer's food critic.
Yes.
Idiot Owen Jones, the lefty, who writes for The Guardian, who blocked me on the grounds that I was Alan Partridge.
Right.
He thought I was. Anyway, so this guy blocks me, so I put out a thing saying, I've now been blocked by this guy for something that happened 12 years ago.
Oh, my God. What was it that happened 12 years ago?
Well, I don't want to reveal too much.
Oh, well, I think you should. We need the story.
We haven't got time.
Well, I hope you're going to come back and...
I'll reveal it in a minute.
But not in private. I can't stand a situation where people on the radio say, in the break we told about... we can't tell you about that. We tell you everything, folks, on this show.
No, I'll tell you exactly what it was.
Okay.
But I'll tell you it next.
But you will tell the audience as well.
Of course, on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sports. We are the two mics, and of course the warm-up is here until 2 o'clock. And a couple of tweets to read out to you. Liam says this: I know the fact that you get two warriors putting it on the line makes them great. It's the fastest growing sport. Fact. Talking about the UFC win by Michael Bisping. It says something being good or bad is an opinion, but to describe the UFC as two guys laying on the floor having sex is a disgrace.
Yeah,
that's what you said.
Well, I did, because that's what it looks like to me. I'm serious. If you asked me what do interpret that without the sound on, I'd say I can't. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I thought the whole idea when I heard about this cage fighting, I thought, wow, this is a brutal sport. The guys in a cage, and do you remember the great Mad Max film where two men in, one man out, two men in, one man out. That one...
Mad Max?
Yeah.
Mad Max 2?
Mad Max 2, where they're all chanting...
Is that the one where the guy's got the big club?
No, it's one where they're both hung from the ceiling and swung at each other, and they have to slash each other's arms off, or
I don't remember
something
that.
like that. Yeah, you do, and all the crowd of weirdos and nutters around the cage that they're in are chanting, two men in, one man out.
I don't remember
it. Yes, you do, you must.
I don't remember
Two men in, one man out.
Sorry, I don't remember it.
The audience
I'll tell you what I do remember, though. I'll tell you what I do remember, because let's go back for a moment to Ronald Koeman and his move
hang on, I haven't finished about my cage fighting yet. So I thought...
It's not called cage fighting.
When you get these guys in a cage, I thought what they'll do is they just go at each other, punch, kick,
well,
club,
sometimes they do.
Knee.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah, but they end up after a few seconds rolling around on the floor, gripping each other.
Not always.
I don't think it's an at all attractive sport. I don't think it's...
Women do it as well, women fight in the UFC as well.
I just don't think it's watch-worthy. Well, I think that's a bit repulsive, to be honest, to have women, scrabbling around, molesting each other like that, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, now, let's talk about Southampton, because there was a moment about 2 or 3 weeks ago when it looked as though Koeman was not going to go to Everton because he was going to sign another deal with Southampton, right?
Well, that was your version of events.
That was
Never mind.
No, that was not just my version of events. You were sucked in by it because it was on all the back pages of the papers, right?
Yeah.
Now, it may well be, it still may well be, despite what everybody's saying,
might be,
that this is just some ruse for Mr. Koeman, who's been likened to a bit of a Benny Hill lookalike, actually.
Well, that's very harsh.
Well, no, that's the way he looks.
He's not Benny Hill when he comes to managing football clubs.
Well,
he's extremely good.
You said when it looked like he wasn't coming to Everton, you started slagging off Southampton.
I did not.
You started saying, why would you want to stay in a dump like that?
I didn't say
that.
that.
Have you ever been down to the old, the cruise ship area where it's just all containers and derelict buildings?
Yes.
And you said it's got nothing on Liverpool, which is not a fair comparison anyway, right?
Why?
And you said, why would anyone want to live in Southampton?
No, I didn't say any of that.
Nobody famous has ever come from Southampton.
No, I
That's
didn't.
what you said.
No, I didn't.
And you said that Koeman was a loser because he didn't want to come to Everton.
No. My exact words were, I thought Mr. Koeman would eventually go to Liverpool to join Everton Football Club, the city of Liverpool, obviously German football club, because I said, compared to Southampton, Southampton's a shack and Everton's a mansion. Now, I wasn't making reference...
They've got a much better stadium, haven't they, Southampton?
Hang on.
It's Goodison Park, if you're talking about shacks. That is an old stadium.
I wasn't making reference to the conditions in which people lived. I wasn't even making references to the respective grounds of the clubs. I was saying...
You said nobody famous has ever come from Southampton.
Hang on, I was saying the heritage and the history of Southampton cannot possibly match the heritage and history of Everton Football Club.
Really?
You know, we've won 9 titles. You know, we've won the FA Cup 5 times. Well, it was unfortunately in 1987.
1987. That was the year I got married.
Oh, was it? Yeah,
That's how long ago that is.
There you go. But I mean, what I'm saying is the heritage and history of Everton outstrips Southampton. Southampton only ever won the FA Cup once under Laurie McMenamin.
Yeah, but you don't need to be so dismissive of an entire city or town.
I'm not. What I'm saying is that you know, people said, why would Koeman go to Everton when Arsenal might be around the corner? And I was pointing out because they're a very fine and established football club, and any manager would be, you know, would bite your arm off to go and manage them.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Here's one from Adam who says, you're talking about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which was Mad Max 3.
Is it? Right, okay, yeah.
Not Mad Max 2.
Yeah.
Gordon says Porky's finally lost the plot.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, exactly. So, you know, that's a very meaningless sort of message.
David says, I think Porky's confused Mad Max with 50 Shades of Grey.
No, I haven't, honestly.
Right.
Honestly.
By the way,
everybody remembers that
one. Did you see my tweet the other night? Because in a lapse of judgment, I decided I'd better have a look amongst all the talk at Versailles. You know that show you were talking about?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that'll be in Porky Vision this week.
Oh, would it? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Well, I had a look at it, right?
Yes.
And there's one scene, which I don't want to give too much away, obviously.
Yes.
There's one scene where there's a kind of torture going on.
Oh, yeah.
Where the guy's kind of whacking another guy with an axe or something like that.
He's taking his eyes out, actually.
Well, something like that.
Yeah.
But
gouging his eyes out.
There's one moment where the camera looks back up at Louis XIV, the king, and he is the spitting image of the man with no name.
Is he really?
He really is.
Is he really?
And I tweeted that out a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Now, something else I'm going to ask you about.
Yes.
You were at the Derby yesterday.
Yes.
You said it was fairly uneventful.
Yes.
You lost a bit of money, 400 plus quid.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can reveal whether Mr. Brazil won any money.
I don't know, actually. Al told me he'd got all his bets sorted before he actually went over to the tent, and he'd been studying the form for quite a while. So.
And you were down at the sort of the winning post, right?
At the winning post, yeah.
Did you notice any riot police?
What?
Did you notice any riot police?
They don't have riot police at Epsom Derby, mate.
Well, they did yesterday.
No.
They did. I'm
Don't
just
be
looking
ridiculous.
at the story here. Riot police were brought in to break up fights between bottle-throwing groups of racegoers at the Epsom Derby yesterday.
What?
After violence broke out at the famous course.
No.
How can you not have noticed it?
Well, it doesn't happen in the sort of
bottles were hurled.
environs
Innocent
of where I
bystanders
was.
were forced to flee for fear of being caught up in the violence. One attendee described it as a full-scale riot.
Where was this taking place?
Look at the pictures.
Have a look at the picture, please.
This is Epsom. This is where you were.
And whose report is this?
It's in the Standard. It's a very highly respected paper.
Golly.
Not least because they've done a promotional video for us.
Can I tell you where that is? That is right in the middle of the course.
Yeah.
Now, to explain to our millions of listeners who haven't had the privilege of going to Epsom, the main stand in the background is the two new stands that have been built, and in the middle of the course they have a fairground, okay? And this is where the fairground is situated. The police are lined up in front of this fairground, and I can't see any bottles being thrown, but I can see people cowering. From missiles and that kind of stuff.
You're supposed to be a reporter trained in the coverage of wars, trained in the coverage of... I mean, you're always famously telling us about how you covered the riots in Toxteth,
indeed.
Covered the riots in Brixton, covered the riots in St Paul's in Bristol.
Indeed.
You know, back in 1981.
This is amazing.
You must have been off your face.
It says 11 people, including a 15-year-old, were arrested following the disgraceful scenes, with one witness saying he came across two people with what appeared to be stab wounds in a paramedic's tent after his friend passed out.
How could you not have noticed any of that?
Images showing bottles being hurled while innocent bystanders were forced to flee for fear of being caught up in the violence.
I imagine there's quite a lot of hurling going on.
Yeah, one attendee branded it a full-scale riot.
Yeah.
One visitor to the course, which attracted 100,000 people over its two-day Derby festival, told the Standard hundreds of people had been involved at the peak of the trouble.
And you haven't noticed any of this?
No. Just after the last race, people were kicking off, throwing bottles. This is disgraceful.
How did you get out of the place while all this was going on?
I don't know. It says, this is how it started. A race girl claimed a number of teenage boys who had earlier been making a rap video on their phone started taking on the gang of youths.
Right.
He said then another group of boys had a fight and started throwing things into the middle where people were standing. People fled because of it. He added, when there were lots of fighters, that's when the police started moving, and everyone was saying the Queen could probably see the fights from where she was.
Yeah,
I didn't know the Queen was there. Was the Queen
you
there?
didn't know the Queen was there?
No, I didn't know
She's
the Queen
always
was
at the Derby.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't think she goes all the time.
Unbelievable. No, she always goes to the Derby. In fact, I don't think the Queen has ever missed a Derby, aside from, she wasn't well or something.
Okay. It says, great day at the Epsom Derby, tweeted one race girl, although at the end we had to dodge police dogs and riot police. Good God. Wow.
You sure you were there?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
You sure you in Brazil weren't stuck in the Holiday Inn?
No.
Actually didn't bother going to the course?
No, not at all, at all, mate. Wow, blimey. Well, that is an eye-opener, that one, isn't it? Eh?
Certainly is. Now, coming up...
I wonder where the riot police came from. I wouldn't have thought that in a
probably out of the riot vans.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't have thought that in a spa town like Epsom, you had like a huge squad of riot police hanging around, waiting for riots to happen.
They sit around on standby.
Shouldn't that be somewhere where,
like
unruly people
Southampton?
live? Well, not Southampton, no. No, the people of Southampton are wonderful people. I go there sometimes, yes.
Now, coming up, we're going to do heroes and villains.
Okay.
Where basically you come up with two choices for heroes.
Yes.
You come up with two choices for villains. I do the same.
Right.
And then producer Tom decides which one of us should be given the victory.
Oh, I see. It's his choice.
Well, we agreed last week.
You got here before me this morning, didn't you?
Well, no, we agreed.
Bring a present for the producer?
No.
Didn't you?
See, I'm not like you.
No, slip him a bottle or something, eh?
I'm not like you.
Huh?
No, I don't sort of try and win by cheating. I don't try and, ingratiate myself with people that I think can help me.
Yeah.
I let people judge me as I am. You're a disgrace. This is Talk Sport. That's the music for heroes and villains. It's only the second time we've done it. I actually won last week, so technically I'm 1-0 up.
Yes.
So you could draw level if your heroes and villains are better than my heroes and villains.
Okay.
And Tom will judge them as we go. Yeah, so would you like to go first with your two heroes or two villains, whatever you want to go first with?
I think we'll go one each, okay?
Okay, then.
Yeah, right. My first hero...
Yes.
My first hero is... Ronald Koeman.
Ronald Koeman.
Because he has decided now that he's going to go to Everton as their manager, and that is a brilliant decision. Now, he's not actually the hero of this piece, OK? He is the subject.
It hasn't happened yet, has it?
No, he's the subject. You know the hero of the piece is?
Who's the hero?
Our new investor, Mr Marisci. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Mr Marisci.
To all Everton fans and...
No, but nothing's happened yet.
No, it has happened. It has happened.
You're sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Mr Marisci has doggedly and determinedly refused to take the answer no from Ronald Koeman as he tried to lure...
Sherman?
Yeah, as he tried to lure him to Goodison Park. At first, Mr Koeman didn't want to come.
Koeman?
Second, then
how do you say? You're going to have to learn his name.
Then he decided to stay at Southampton. He thought that, the grass was green on the other side of another fence, but has now decided...
Do you not think there's still a chance?
No.
A chance?
No.
That he's just trying to up the ante at Southampton to get more money?
No, Mr Marisci...
Is Ronald Koeman... Is he really worth $7 million a year?
Well, Mr Marisci thinks he is, and I'll tell you this. Look, if Everton get into the Champions League, or even if they sell another 1,000 top-priced season tickets, that will bring in a couple of million a season, and that will pay.
But they haven't got a big enough stadium to fund all that.
Well, I think if I'm Mr Marisci is also going to do something about the stadium as well. So I know these things. So
they're going to sell Lukaku, right?
Yes, I think they are, yes. He doesn't want to play for Everton anymore, we should sell him.
Well, who's going to replace him with all the goals that he scored?
Well, has Jamie Vardy actually signed on the dotted line for Arsenal?
No, but he's having a medical there today. Has Ronald Koeman actually signed on the dotted line for Everton?
I would watch this space.
All right, so that's your first hero.
Yes.
My first hero is, as before mentioned, Michael Bisping, who becomes the first British champion of UFC. Yeah. I've got a note here from someone who says, he's not the first champion at all, because somebody else who's British actually won something to do with... first mixed martial arts champion was Liam McGeary in Bellator.
Okay.
But that's not quite as big as UFC. So this is the first proper British man who has become a UFC champion. I think that's terrific news for the sport.
Yes,
so he's my first hero.
Okay.
So who's your second hero?
My second hero? Now, okay, this is because it's so current. My second hero is, right?
Yeah.
And this is an award which I'm bestowing upon the man.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he's dead.
What?
Right, yes.
What, you're making somebody a hero who's dead?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Indeed.
You can't do Muhammad Ali, by the way.
No, I'm not doing Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
I'm not doing Muhammad Ali. Guess who I'm doing?
I have no idea.
Henry Cooper.
Oh, right.
Because Henry Cooper was the first man to floor the most famous boxer that ever put on a pair of gloves.
Yeah, when was that?
1963.
Right.
And for that reason...
It's quite a long time ago.
It is a long time ago, but for that reason now, as we look back on
he also didn't win.
On the great... No, he didn't win, no. The great legend Muhammad Ali's life, we have to remember what part of the story most touches on this country and our people in the United Kingdom.
Really?
And it was Henry's hammer.
Okay.
Henry Cooper's hammer, okay?
Right.
So that is the
up all
award.
night thinking these
No.
things.
And I think you'll find our audience of millions will really gleefully embrace that one.
It doesn't matter what they think. It's up to Tom behind
Yeah,
the glass.
well, I think Tom will embrace it as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think he was even born then.
What?
I don't think he was even born
No,
then.
I know, but he knows the history because the boy's a student of historical fact.
That'll go down well.
Well, you know,
I'm going to go for
chap.
Andy Murray,
Yeah.
which is a slightly more
Well,
current.
excuse me.
First of all, he's alive.
He hasn't won anything.
Yeah, but he is the first Briton into the final of the French Open.
Just because I said he's
Hang on.
going to win.
No. Because you've said he's going to
Yeah,
win, I
yeah.
fear that he will not. But the point is that he's the first Briton into the final of the French Open since 1937.
Yes.
And he could win it for the first time ever, which would be tremendous.
There's a couple of women here in France who should be playing tennis but look like they're cage fighting. Look.
They're lying on the ground rolling around.
gripping each
They've
other.
just won the French Open.
Well, the French Open doubles, you mean?
Yeah.
It's hardly any
Well, they've just
achievement,
won the
is it?
French Open.
I could probably win that. If you and I played in that, we could probably win that.
I don't think we could beat these two.
No, in the men's
I'm not going to be
section.
party to your ridiculous
Anyway, go on.
boasting.
Go on, yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
my two are Michael Bisping and Andy Murray, both still alive, both
Yes.
having made a great achievement
Yeah.
for British sport.
Well, nobody's ever heard of the first one, and the second one hasn't achieved anything this afternoon yet. So
All right.
I think that's ridiculous. Your nominations are ridiculous.
Okay, well, let's have your first villain then.
Well, let's have your first villain
My
first.
first villain is Ronald Koeman.
What?
Ronald Koeman.
How can he be a villain?
Because he has left Southampton in the lurch.
No, he hasn't.
They gave him a job.
It's football.
No, it's not football. They gave him a job, and they thought that they were going to be able to rely upon him to extend his contract because that was the noises he was making. He has played a very dirty game.
Yeah.
At one stage, promising to anyone that would listen to him that in fact he wasn't going to go anywhere. That he loved Southampton. That he loved the setup there.
Yes.
That he really enjoyed working in that part of the world. Really liked what the players had achieved with
Yes.
him throughout the course of the year. And it turns out that was all a pile of tosh. Unless, of course, it turns out that he doesn't go to Everton.
He's a football manager.
No, it doesn't matter.
And guess who
He has-
Southampton
he has
are lining up to replace
Roberto
him?
Martinez.
No.
Yeah, no, Roberto Martinez is on the list.
Pellegrini.
Pellegrini's on the list too.
Yeah, as well,
But
yeah.
wouldn't it be strange
Yeah.
if it was a straight swap
Well, maybe.
between
But
Roberto Martinez
maybe.
and Ronald Koeman?
Well,
So
we get the best of that deal.
who's
right.
your first villain?
My first villain is Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Why?
Because he's been a complete and utter flop at Manchester United. He shouldn't have been brought in the first place, so that was the fault of Louis van Gaal.
Well, Pep Guardiola knew that he was a busted flush.
He knew he was a busted flush, but Schweinsteiger...
Where do you think Van Gaal is now, by the way?
I know where he is. He's in his villa in Portugal.
He's still there?
Yeah. Now, Bastian Schweinsteiger, in my view, and I'm not saying he hasn't defrauded anybody, don't get me wrong.
It wasn't his fault. He was injured a lot.
But in my view, he simply wasn't up to performing as a Premier League footballer at that level, and therefore should never really have gone to Manchester United. And I think he shortchanged the fans.
Well, hang on. You can't support a manager for being mercenary and then attack another footballer for being mercenary.
No, I'm not. It's not the mercenary bit about it. It's how much did he contribute towards Manchester United's appalling season?
He scored a couple
I'd
of
say
important
quite
goals.
a lot.
He scored a couple of important goals.
Yeah, but he was hardly ever playing, and he wasn't fit.
You do know that he's been selected to play in the Euros with the German team, don't you?
Well, that's fine. That's good.
He's, in fact, the captain of Germany.
Sorry?
He's the captain of Germany.
I don't think he is anymore.
Yes, he is.
Well, he won't be for long.
Because Philipp Lahm has been dropped.
Yeah.
And so
but
now Schweinsteiger is the captain.
But Schweinsteiger is a busted flush.
Well, he's the
and for
captain
that
of Germany.
for that reason, he is my first villain. Okay, who's your second villain?
My second villain is you.
What?
You're my second villain.
How dare you say that? For
Because
what reason?
it is very clear from the CCTV footage that I have seen,
Yes.
which I haven't yet been given permission to use,
Yes.
that you walked over to the photocopier in the TalkSport office on Thursday evening, and when upon discovering the list of questions,
No, completely untrue.
you then studied them,
No.
made a copy,
No.
and put them in your pocket.
Utter rubbish.
It's not rubbish.
It is.
It's all on film.
You have
All
to
on
produce.
film.
You have to produce this film because
Well,
this is a lie.
Well, I have to get
it's
permission.
a dirty, filthy, made-up lie.
I
It's
have
fiction.
to get permission from
Well,
the
get
security
permission, then.
consultants
Get permission.
who own the property of the film. Okay,
Yeah.
because there are certain issues regarding personal data protection, etc. But I can tell you, I've seen the footage, and everybody knows who watches the quiz, which is currently on Too Much TV, and also who listened to the quiz at the time, who realised that, you have no idea who the star of Billion Dollar Baby is, do you?
Well,
who is the star of Billion Dollar Baby?
I told you.
Who?
The lady who I told you.
What's her name?
Swankle.
Swankle? What's her first name?
Hillary.
Hillary Swankle?
Yeah.
Right. And what's the name of Clint Eastwood's production company?
Malpaso.
Malpaso?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was the name of the man who co-starred, or the woman rather, who co-starred in Two Mules for Uncle Annie or whatever it was?
Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley MacLaine. So you remember
and it was
that
actually Two Mules for Sister Sarah.
2 Mules for Sister Sarah.
So I know more about it than you do.
So you've still got them in your pocket?
No, I haven't.
Anyway,
you can't possibly win this competition.
I have now got to win it because of the CCTV footage, which hopefully I will get permission to reveal.
There isn't any, and you've based this on a lie. And
Not true.
And what's more,
not true.
What is the worst thing you've just committed is you're trying to pull the wool over our listeners' eyes. None of what you've said exists. It's a lie.
No, it's not.
It's a lie.
It is a lie. What are you telling to Rafa Benitez? It's a lie.
In 6 months' time, every show we do from now until we stop working together, my opening question to you at the start of every show is, have you got the CCTV footage of me cheating?
I will be happy to let you know.
And the answer is no, because I didn't.
I will be happy to let you know when I'm given permission to use it.
Right.
I may never be given permission to use it.
Oh, well, I'm going to demand that the company allow you to use it.
You don't have that much power.
To show you up as the empty-headed, lying, vacuous creep that you are. Right, now then, my second villain.
You see, you can always know when I've pricked your conscience.
No.
You start abusing me.
No, my second villain.
Yeah, go on.
Roy Keane.
Roy Keane?
What on earth was Roy Keane doing speaking out and coating, literally, half of the Ireland team after their pathetic performance against Belarus, right?
Pathetic performance.
Yeah, pathetic performance against Belarus.
Well, that's his job.
When Martin O'Neill, who when I last looked at the age of 62 is still the Irish coach, the head coach of Ireland, the manager, just stayed silent. I just don't get it. If Martin O'Neill felt that, he wanted to deal with it in his way and decided the silent treatment for his players was the best, then Roy Keane goes on television and says some of them pathetic, they didn't race back, they didn't do their jobs properly. I'm sorry,
but... he did also utter the immortal words, I wanted to kill them.
Yes, I wanted to kill them, and I'm sorry, but what he's done there is he's completely rearranged the balance of power in the Irish coaching setup, because the players now are more frightened of him than they are of Martin O'Neill, and that's not a good thing.
Well, that's his position, though.
No,
that's what he's there for.
He's there to support the coach, and in my view, he did anything but support the coach in speaking out like that. I thought it was ridiculous.
Now, we have. Well, that's all right. I'm just going to say what now has to happen is that Tom gets a little time to consider.
Well, he can't make you the winner because you've told a lie.
Well, no,
told a big fat lie.
That's not true.
No.
Funnily enough, I've just received a text message from somebody very high up at Talk Sport.
Right. Okay.
Who says that permission has been granted.
Lovely.
For the CCTV footage to be released.
Excellent. Good.
So
when are we going to see that then?
Well, I can't do it while I'm on the air, obviously.
Well, perhaps you can do it, when we go to the news in a minute or two.
There are technical niceties that you wouldn't know about that will have to be navigated before I can release it on social media.
Yes.
But yes, rest assured, the evidence will be there for all to see.
Not at all.
This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The warm-up with the two mics
on Talk Sport.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mics, and we're doing the warm-up, of course. Coming up in this hour, Rupert Bell's going to join us. He was at the Derby yesterday, he probably saw the Queen, he may even have seen Mr Parry. We'll find out from him why Mr Parry seems to have missed the entire riot that was going on at the end of the race, but there we are. And we'll also get the result, of course, of Heroes and Villains, and we'll try and get an update on what's been going on with this CCTV footage. Also, we've got to do Listtography as well, so we've got to...
Listtography,
we could ask the listeners, actually, if they want to do hashtag Listtography. There's going to be 3 things that we talk about. Could be... good things, bad things.
We got a very nice response to the one we did in our last show.
We did, actually.
Friday morning when you actually put up quite a good question. What 3 things will you guys be doing in 5 years' time?
Yeah.
And we had to guess what each other would be doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You said I was probably going to be very ill.
Yes.
It was very charming.
Well, that's because you smoke 40 fags a day. I was trying to warn you off.
Thank you very much. 08717 223344. Tweet us at the Two Mics with your Listtography ideas. You're listening to the Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. Now, you hear Kate Partridge putting Michael Bisping in the headlines.
Yes, I did, yes. Interesting.
So apparently it's quite a big story.
Yeah, that's because you whispered in her ear before and said, could you help me out here?
I certainly did not whisper in her ear.
Yeah. Listen,
There's
just
only whispering in her ear that was done some months ago was from you, I seem to remember.
What do you mean?
Oh, I seem to remember you were trying to chat her up a while ago.
Ridiculous.
I am. That, yeah.
I am some sort of,
you found out she wasn't married, you weren't interested.
Oh, how ridiculous is it? I'm not even going to comment on that.
Yeah.
You're upsetting the poor girl and it's just not right.
Okay.
Now, listen, just before we go further,
yes.
I don't want to get away too far from the Muhammad Ali story because, of course, it is quite a day when we are looking at the commemoration of the life of one of the greatest men who's ever lived, and I mean that quite sincerely.
Oh, absolutely.
And
no doubt.
For instance, I've got the Sunday Telegraph in front of me, and our very good friend, more friend of yours than mine, but still a very good friend, Gareth A. Davis, has written a fulsome tribute.
Muhammad Ali, of the station.
Indeed, a very big friend of the station. Muhammad Ali was one of a generation of heavyweight giants, but as the Telegraph's boxing correspondent Gareth A. Davis writes, his unflinching bravery, balletic technique and technical brilliance made him the greatest of all, which I think nicely sums up what Gareth's piece is all about. It's an extensive piece, I won't read that. But what I did want to just develop was, we spoke to Gorgeous George earlier on.
We did.
Mr. Galloway, George Galloway, and he said that some of the things that Muhammad Ali said were brilliant in their diction and brilliant in their composition. And I totally agree. That was my very thought when I was coming in this morning. And so I've highlighted two of them because I just think they could have been written by Shakespeare, seriously. How did Ali get the inspiration in his mind to write this? I done wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I handcuff lightning, thrown thunder in jail. I'm so mean, I make medicine sick. That to me is genius.
Yeah.
I mean, fancy finding words like that to explain exactly how he regarded himself in life with a tongue-in-cheek, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that was the great thing, because there was always a tongue-in-cheek about it. And at some points, he'd actually had to come out and say things like, actually in real life, I'm quite humble around my kids and around, my family and all that.
Sure.
He said, but I found that humble people don't get on very well in life, so when I go out there, I'm going to talk about myself. But there was a great one that I heard earlier on today, which was apparently when he said this to some fighter or other, if you even dream that you're beating me, you better wake up and apologise.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is tremendous, isn't it?
And this one here as well shows exactly where he came from with his mental agility. I'm the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was the greatest. I figured that if I said it enough, I would convince the world that I really was the greatest.
Yeah, and he really was.
Yeah, but he was the greatest anyway.
Right.
But this other one that I mentioned to George, the fight is won or lost far away from witnesses, behind the lines in the gym and out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights. And again, it's just the sort of stuff that Shakespeare was writing, because Shakespeare knew how the human mind thought and translated that into script.
Now, as often with guys like Muhammad Ali as well, not that there are many guys like Muhammad Ali, but people said, because he was so good at what he did, he could literally say anything, because whenever he went out there, he was so magnificent, athletic, and his punches. And I mean, have you seen the size of his hands?
Yes.
I mean, they were so big.
Yeah, exactly,
and the speed with which he punched and all the rest of it. But also he was, as Piers Morgan wrote a piece yesterday that said, what a fantastic man. He was the greatest. He was the guy. But he was also flawed just like everybody else. Yeah. And, he was quite a womanizer in his time. And, in fact, there's now...
9 children.
Yeah, there would appear to be, and possibly 2 love children.
Yes.
There would now appear to be some kind of a possible battle going on for either, because although he was never wealthy post, his career, recently his wife, currently, who I think has been with him for about 10 years, and he signed away a deal for something like 30 million for his image rights. Right? So there's quite a lot of money to be fought over. And I mean, he was quite a voracious. He had quite a voracious appetite with women, and I don't think that takes anything away from what he did. People will say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't talk about it." But the reason I'm telling you this is because there was a story I wanted to reveal to you. Mickey Brennan, the guy I was talking about before,
indeed, the photographer friend of ours in New York,
who did an awful lot of business with him.
He did,
and was always, whenever there was an Ali fight, he was up at his training ground and everything. And he told me a story once of his brother who came over from England.
The milkman.
His brother was a milkman,
funny.
Who's a big Crystal Palace fan.
That's right,
and kind of didn't get on with his brother much anyway. And he was the guy that he ended up getting in a fight with in the bar
over the brother's wife.
Well, no, this was a different story.
Oh, right.
No, but when he turned up that time, and I said he had a black eye or something, but his brother had given him the black eye.
Yeah, because Mickey had made an improper suggestion to the brother's wife.
Something like that. But beyond that, he said to the brother, "Look, I'm going to take you up to Muhammad Ali's training camp, because this was the height of his fame."
Yes.
And he said,
That's in the Catskills.
In the Catskills, out just north of New York. And he said, you might want to meet the guy, because he's just amazing. We'll do some pictures and it'll be great. Anyway, so they arrive up in the Catskills, and Ali had this massive trailer, a bit like sort of film stars would have a trailer. And he knocked on the door and he got permission to go up there. And, of course, Ali knew him and he opened his door, took one look at Mickey and said, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, this is my brother-in-law and his wife." And Ali apparently took
Brother and wife.
Sorry, brother and
sister-in-law.
sister-in-law.
Yeah.
He took one look at the guy's wife and said, "Oh, hello," and took her by the hand and dragged her inside the trailer.
And shut the door.
She went very willingly and shut the door. And stayed inside the trailer with her for about 45 minutes while the brother was pacing around outside going, what's he doing?
Well, you wouldn't really knock on Muhammad Ali's door and say...
And he was getting so irate, he started saying to Mickey, he said, I'm going to go in there and sort the guy out. He's like, he's the heavyweight champion of the world.
And probably the best ever.
And all that you can say about the story is that Mickey then says, and when finally 45 minutes passed and the door opened, she came out with Ali looking what can only be described as slightly flustered. So I don't know what happened inside the...
Will we ever know what happened?
Well, I don't think we will, but you can probably, assume that something happened. I'm not quite sure how...
That is some story. That is some story.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, indeed.
But, I mean, he literally couldn't turn women down.
Well, I know somebody else who has that problem, to be honest.
Me too, yeah.
In fact, funny enough, I was going to tell you
We
about...
don't want to talk about Epsom again, though.
No, I'm not going to talk about Epsom. I'm talking about another story in a minute. Here's the last one from Ali, right?
Yeah.
Here's the last two, actually. Right. I'm so fast that last night I turned off the light switch in my hotel room and I was in bed before the room was dark. I've used that a few times myself in the company of ladies who don't know that quote.
Why?
Well, because I thought it was so good.
Well, you made out that it's yours.
I just said it, and I didn't say whose it was, but I didn't think ladies would have followed the career of Muhammad Ali.
So you figure that you would be then seen as some kind of wordsmith?
Well, I mean,
genius.
I mean,
That's shocking.
Well, it is a bit, yeah. But here's the last one, right? And this is great. It shows that he didn't always talk tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I always bring out the best in men I fight, but Joe Frazier, I'm telling the world right now, brings out the best in me. I'm going to tell you. That is one hell of a man. And that's a tribute to an opponent. That's not tongue-in-cheek at all.
Although, funnily enough, Frazier Frazier died some years ago.
He did, yeah.
And he went to his grave kind of resenting Ali
an
awful lot.
He did.
Because he felt that Ali had kind of made him look idiotic and had really insulted him.
And had stolen his legacy as a great heavyweight boxer by persistently clouding the issues all the time. You're absolutely right, yeah. And
because he beat Ali, didn't he?
He beat him
the first fight,
and then Ali won the second two. But everybody says from the first fight, because it was 15 rounds in those days, he was never the same again.
Yeah.
Took such a pounding.
Right.
And in a subsequent fight, didn't Ali was his jaw broken?
Yes, I think he was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, was that not Ken Norton that broke his jaw?
Ken Norton broke his jaw. Absolutely.
Do you remember actually any of the fights? Because I mean, I was probably slightly too young to. I remember the Thriller in Manila.
Yeah.
And I remember the Rumble in the Jungle.
Yes.
But earlier than that, not really.
I told you, my dad used to get me out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, much to my mother's chagrin, and bring me downstairs and make...
You've only got 15 more minutes for her to hear this story.
Yeah, that's right.
Off.
And we used to watch Ali overnight. But the one I remember, and I remember it for a very specific reason, was when he fought Canadian George Chuvalo.
Oh, yeah.
It was 2 years after Ali had changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. And Chuvalo, to wind him up foolishly, would never call him Muhammad Ali. He just kept calling him Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
So Ali could have dispatched this man in the second round. He didn't. He waited another 8 rounds because he kept punching him in the face and saying, "What's my name?"
Yeah.
And then, "What's my name?"
Amazing.
"What's my name?"
Yeah.
And Chuvalo, got battered to pieces because Ali hit him just hard enough to keep him on his feet, but not hard enough to put him down, so the ref stopped the fight. It was amazing, and he tortured him because Chuvalo was being so ignorant and disrespectful to him.
And I mean, the only other story that... Because I think I was probably at the odd press conference where he was.
Yes.
But once I was working in the States with doing lots of boxing stuff, I didn't really come across him too much. With Leon, I did an interview with Leon Spinks.
Oh, yeah.
Who, of course,
that's a great story.
Who, of course, beat him once.
It's a great story.
And then the rematch was, I think, down in New Orleans. And Leon Spinks was heavyweight champion of the world, having beaten Ali, I think, in Madison Square Garden.
That's right.
And he told me the story, because he was now more or less down and out.
No, where did you find Leon Spinks?
I found him in a bar, a really horrible, one of those horrible American bars, dingy, dark, no windows, nobody in it.
Like a wooden shack.
And it was opposite the Ford plant in Detroit.
Right,
because he was hired by the guy who owned the bar.
Yeah.
Because he thought, people will come in and want to talk to Leon Spinks.
Yeah.
Problem was, couldn't understand a word he said. Because
he had no teeth.
He had his front teeth knocked out. And he didn't have the money to get them replaced, right? And he was drinking a mixture of Cointreau and lager. And I spent the whole day with him, right? And I recorded the interview and I played it back, couldn't understand a word. But he talked about how when Don King was basically the kingmaker in those days.
Yeah.
And he said he went down to the fight and he was staying at the best hotel in New Orleans. And, he had the fur coat and he had the girls and he had the limo.
Who was this, Spinks or Don King?
This was Spinks.
Yeah.
And Don King was standing right beside him, carrying the belt into the ring.
That's right,
And he said as the fight went on,
yeah.
and as it became clear that Ali had worked him out and was getting better and better at beating him,
he
said every time he looked at Don King, he'd moved from his corner and it was edging closer and closer to Ali's corner. And when Ali finally won the fight, Don King left with Ali and the girls and the limo and the fur coat.
Yeah.
And he was just left there, and the belt. And so he was left there. He had to get a cab back to the hotel. They find nobody there. King had gone. Everybody just left.
Yeah.
And he said, and that was the end of me.
It was like when you lose the presidential election, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The limo, the Secret Service men, it's all gone.
The girls, everything.
It all went. That's a great story. That. And Lee and Spinks lashed up on this concoction of what?
Cointreau Lager.
And having no teeth.
Yeah.
I don't suppose somebody could stand a blinking word he ever said.
I got back to my hotel and started playing the tape back.
Yeah.
Couldn't understand any of it. This is Talk Sport.
Oh, dear.
Now, this is not the normal music for Listtography.
No.
But maybe we should adopt this as the music for Listtography on a Sunday.
Yes, OK.
Just to kind of delineate it from the normal music for Listtography.
Well, I don't like the music for the normal one. It's yesterday. It's today. It's yesterday.
Yesterday.
I know, but I think that's the worst ever Beatles song.
You know what? You know what we could do?
Yeah.
We could, if you want, for next week.
Yeah.
We could ask the audience to pick a song.
That'd be good. Yeah.
For
Listtography.
Yeah.
OK. Yeah.
Because in a way, we picked yesterday because it had some resonance with the New Day.
That's
which
right.
Was the paper that
that's right.
Started
it came
this whole
from.
thing.
But we've got to sever that connection now.
But we've moved on from that.
Yes,
now,
we have.
Don't you think?
Yes.
So we're going to have three things that you could do on a sunny Sunday.
Great.
Which is very opposite, really, because we're about to leave the studio in half an hour.
Okay.
By the way, your mother's now no longer listening.
No, she's not. No.
You say anything you like about her, she won't know.
Well, she's a wonderful woman. I love her to bits, but I don't know. Sometimes loyalty, blood thicker than water, all that kind of stuff. Right.
So, I suppose we could start by saying, what are you about to do after the show finishes? Because it is a sunny Sunday. It's not quite as sunny actually in London as it was when I left
exactly.
Sussex. No, but I left the coast this morning. It was beautiful.
Oh, was it? OK, well, it's not here. Right, OK. So shall I go first?
In lots of other parts of the country, I'm assuming it's sunny.
Yes.
So why don't you go first with your first suggestion?
Right, my first suggestion is, on a lovely sunny afternoon, is to go to an English country garden in an English country pub, hotel, restaurant, whatever you want to call it.
Pub hotel?
Yeah, pub hotel. And to, in fact, funny enough, where I was yesterday at Epsom, I went there just a couple of weeks ago to the rubbing house. Remember I told you?
I remember
It's called the rubbing house. That's where you rub the horses down, you know?
I can't laugh at the same joke twice, but I have to say I didn't realise it was the name of a pub.
Yes, it is,
I assumed it was some kind of...
the knocking shop.
Well, it's a very unfortunate name.
It was a knocking shop.
Well, it's a very unfortunate name.
Anyway, the point is, although I say an English country garden, what I would do when I got there with the family, because I'd be taking them out for Sunday lunch, is definitely not ask for a table in the garden.
Right.
I cannot stand eating in the open air.
Why not?
Because you get flies and things.
Wasps.
Wasps, flies, you get, things blowing into your food and blowing off your food.
Yeah, but if it's a nice
the table.
day, there's nothing like it.
No. I mean,
I actually we had a barbecue last night.
Yes.
And we actually ate dinner outside.
Lovely, OK, that's good for you. I wouldn't do that. I don't like that. I can't stand it. And particularly when the waiters then come out with these weights that they have to put on the table to stop the blinking tablecloth from blowing off the table and all that kind of
where
stuff.
You say there isn't any wind.
Yeah, well, there isn't any wind most of the time. It doesn't take much wind to lift a tablecloth, does it? And I can't stand it when leaves are dropping on your plate and all that kind of stuff.
Well, not every place has tablecloths outside. I mean, that's pretty posh.
I go to posh places.
No, most places they just have like the picnic table.
But anyway, the point is, I would always ask for a table near the window so that the sunshine came through, but I would not want to sit in the open air.
Outside. What about a sort of conservatory affair?
Conservatory's fine, but it's not too hot. I find that glass places, conservatories... No, they heat the place up remarkably, and I don't like hot environments.
Okay.
So what would be your first?
All right, my first was head to the beach, which I think is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of here.
Can't stand beaches.
What do you mean you can't stand beaches?
Well, they're full of sand and flies and all that kind of stuff.
Flies?
Yeah.
There's a recurring theme here.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
What, are you scared of flies?
I am, yeah. In fact, funny enough, there was one in my house last night. I got in, but I
Probably
was...
through the window.
I was up about 2 or 3 o'clock, and I heard this buzzing. It woke me. And, no, it was a fly.
How big was it?
Well, I mean...
How can a fly buzzing wake you up?
It was a fly size. You know what I mean?
What, life-size fly?
Yeah, you know what I mean. And funny enough, I opened the door to my roof garden. It flew out. It was amazing, yeah. So it must have just wanted to find a way out or something, yeah.
Well, that's what they usually do.
Yeah, I've got a light in the garden, you see. So the house is in darkness, so I opened the door, switched the light on, woof, it was out immediately. I didn't have to club it or anything. Didn't have to smack it. Yeah.
The picture of you clubbing a fly.
No, come on, get on with it.
Okay, well, I'm saying head for the beach, and in fact, the part of the world where I am down the south coast there's not that much sand anyway. It's more kind of shingle, which is fine. And
don't you find it too crowded on a Sunday afternoon?
Well, no, because I know certain parts of the beach where most people don't know about.
Okay. And what do you take with you?
Take the dog. Yeah. Take a picnic blanket.
Yeah.
Take the kids.
Right.
And I'm not a massive fan of eating on the beach.
No, that's what I mean. Sand in your food and all that.
Well,
God, that's horrible.
Well, it's not about the sand. I'm just not a big fan of just sitting there eating stuff.
Yeah, neither
people
am I.
do. I mean, they start. And also the problem I have with people who like to eat things on the beach is they're leaving a dog down. He sees a ham sandwich from 100 yards.
Right.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
So basically I shall spend probably, as soon as I get out, I'll spend a couple of hours down at the beach and then maybe up for an ice cream on the promenade.
Yeah, the sand gets you an ice cream as well.
There isn't any sand,
I
told you.
Yeah, there's sand around every beach. Yeah, no, there's particles of sand everywhere.
No, not true. Number 2.
Right, number 2 for me.
You.
It would be actually a Sunday afternoon match, 4 o'clock. Okay, now
Sunday afternoon football match.
Yeah.
What do you mean, you're playing it?
No, watch it, you fool.
All right.
Would you playing it? Nobody plays football at 4 o'clock in the afternoon except professional footballers.
Football over there, just
that's
behind
That's five aside. So that because I love the build up to those games.
Today?
Hey,
aren't Wales playing today?
Wales, yeah, they are. Last friendly,
yeah. Well, you could watch that then. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'd like to go to the game. It's the whole experience of going to the game. You see what I mean?
Okay.
And a bit of lunch first.
You'd have to move fast.
Because it's 4 o'clock. You can have some lunch first, you can have a few sherbets, and then get into the ground. I've got a great lounge. I go in, have a few more sherbets, watch the first half.
So this is kind of on any Sunday, really,
have a few more sherbets, and then watch the second half.
Yeah, Wales are playing at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
So you've only got an hour to get to Sweden.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go to Sweden, obviously. And then the full experience of getting home afterwards, or maybe staying over in Liverpool or something like that.
Yeah.
But I love a Sunday afternoon game if I can fit it in without responsibilities first thing Monday morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that same sporting bent,
right?
You can probably do it this afternoon, but certainly during the Euros.
Yes.
One of the things I really like on a hot, sunny Sunday afternoon is to find a big screen somewhere.
Yes.
They usually have one in Canary Wharf.
Right.
Sometimes there's one just behind King's Cross Station by the canal there.
Right.
And you can go there and have a couple of beers, watch either Andy Murray in the French Open final.
Yeah.
Because there's something really good about watching a big screen with a couple of hundred other people.
Okay.
That's really good.
What are you watching on the screen?
Well, this afternoon you'll be watching Andy Murray.
Well, why would you do that on a big screen? Go and watch it.
No, because I'm saying there's a certain camaraderie
not for me.
You've never gone and watched a live football match,
Yeah,
during Euro '96, for example, when they had all the screens up, they had a big Trafalgar Square thing, everyone was getting into it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, but I don't like mixing with the great unwashed, and there might be some guy hanging around eating a burger or something, and pungent
probably some
smells
sand
all over the place.
involved.
Yeah, it might be.
All right, your third one then.
Now, my third one would be, if I knew it was going to be a sunny day, if I could plan the day right and all that kind of stuff, I'd go for a 2-hour walk across the South Downs.
Yeah.
Okay? That would be brilliant because, a few people get out there on Sundays and there's a great camaraderie amongst walkers and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
You mean like people like Janet Street Porter? You mean like Ramblers?
Yeah, I believe that she is a Rambler, isn't she?
She is a Rambler,
yeah, I think she's in the Rambling
I
Association
don't think you'd
or
have
something.
much in common with her, would you, if you ran into her on the Epsom
Why not?
Downs?
Why not?
Well, because it doesn't seem like you're your kind of woman.
Well, she's a feisty individual with, she's got...
Successful.
Yeah, she's
wealthy.
very successful. Yeah, she's quite wealthy and she's got...
opinionated.
Yeah, she's got...
exactly the kind of woman you'd hate.
Not really, but I've never come across her, to be honest. Don't think I've ever met her. Might have done, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, that would be it. Particularly as you plan your route, so that at the end of it, there is an English country pub.
Yes.
And you get in there for about 6 o'clock and get a couple of pints and all that, and then return home to a traditional Sunday roast cooked by somebody else.
Okay.
Yep.
Who?
Well, yeah, I don't know, the family or something like that.
Well, you're going to go home to your penthouse, bachelor penthouse.
No, I might have been invited round to my sister's for dinner or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
that's the third one. Yeah.
How is your sister?
They're very well, thank
Did
you.
she recover from you not making it down to a party last weekend?
Well, everybody's very disappointed.
By the way, the King's
obviously.
Road is still closed. I heard it on the traffic.
Outrageous.
So don't go that way.
No, I'm not going. No,
Just for people who don't know, you left here last week at 2 o'clock with the idea of getting to Bournemouth.
I did.
And it took you 2.5 hours to get past Battersea.
Yes, that's right. It
because
did.
you didn't listen to me.
No, you didn't give me any advice. Somebody people knew the King's Road was closed, knew I was going that way, but foolishly forgot to mention that to me.
My third thing to do on a sunny Sunday afternoon actually involves driving.
Okay.
Not necessarily in this country, because driving in this country has become so difficult.
Oh, terrible.
There's just too many cars.
Terrible.
But there's nothing like driving, say, finding a coast road. It used to be great in Scotland, actually, because a sunny Sunday in Scotland is very precious indeed.
Yeah.
And the roads are deserted.
Yes.
And you can drive around and, take in the beautiful sights. You can stop somewhere maybe for a bit of lunch.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Stop somewhere for a bit of dinner. And maybe eventually find a nice hotel.
That's good.
It's a lovely thing to do. I love going for a nice drive on a Sunday.
Right, okay.
As long as you're not going to get stuck in traffic.
Don't want to be stuck in traffic, I totally agree.
So I'm going to try basically and sort of combine all three of these things.
Yes.
Albeit that I can't find probably a big screen to watch the tennis on.
Yes.
But I'm going to basically head for the beach, and I'll do it in a nice sort of country drive sort of way.
Yes.
If I can. And I'll end up. I'll be listening, I suppose, to the TalkSport 2 commentary.
Okay.
And if the game is still on,
Yeah.
when I get down towards the beach area,
Yes.
I'll see if I can find a screen to watch it on.
Okay, good thinking.
So what are you doing?
Well, it's not Sunday afternoon, so I'll be doing my fourth favourite thing,
Right.
although it could be my first on some weekends.
What, go straight to the pub?
No, catching up on my journals on Sunday afternoon because
Your journals?
because I don't have to actually do something, to prepare for that night or whatever. And also, this afternoon in particular, catching up on Peaky Blinders. I haven't seen it.
Do you know what I did?
What?
Because we were having a conversation, the mother of my children and I, about Peaky Blinders,
Right.
and she quite likes the idea of looking at it, right?
Right.
And I said, well, I haven't seen the first two episodes, first two series, and the third series is now on. But you can't really start watching the third series. You haven't watched the other two.
I have got the DVDs for the first two. If you want to borrow them.
Funnily enough, I bought them.
Oh, you did?
For her yesterday.
Oh, well done.
I bought the box set
Excellent.
of the first two series.
Excellent. Well
so
done.
we might actually.
If you'd have asked me, you'd have saved yourself about £30.
What about? No, I didn't. I don't think it was that much. It was 20.
Okay.
Did I not give you a box set of House of Cards?
Yes, you did.
Have you watched it yet?
Not yet.
Are you going to give it back at any point?
No. Oh, yeah, I'll give
It's
you
one of the
back.
things I hate about giving people stuff is you never get it back.
No, I will give you back. Don't worry. But I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Haven't had time.
So you're going to get stuck into your journals.
Yes.
Watch a bit of TV.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not going to watch one of these friendlies? I don't know if there are any.
No,
of them on,
no, I'm not. No, because I'm really.
Is
just
Gareth Bale
focused
going
on-
to play in
on
his
England.
Wales friendly? By the way.
I imagine he would because
you
he
know what
normally
we haven't
does.
really talked about.
Yes.
And I know that lots of other people on this station have.
Yes.
The whole Roy Hodgson scenario.
Yes.
Which I just want to touch upon briefly.
Right.
The way that people are talking, right? It's as if he's got some kind of magic plan that nobody knows about, right? That he's actually deliberately made Harry Kane take the free kicks. He's deliberately made
Unbelievable.
Wayne
No,
Rooney
take
the
the corners.
striker, and he's deliberately put Jamie Vardy on the left in order to fox anybody that
Well,
England play. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's almost like that. It's. I mean, why were England's two best strikers playing as wingers, and why was one of them taking the corners? I totally agree
it's
with
a
you.
bit like Barcelona in the Champions League, sort of in the first leg, making Messi the left back, making Neymar the centre half,
Sure,
and saying, what we don't want to do is let you in on what we're going to do in the second leg.
Yes,
it's
that's
bonkers.
Right. We were talking to some football writer the other night. I can't remember who it was.
Very dismissive.
No, I'm not being dismissive. I'm picking up your point and running with it. He was very.
Was it Simon Johnson? Do you think from the Standard?
I think it could have been Simon, and I think
he was at the England game. Yeah,
he was at the England game, and I said, why does Hodgson have such an offhand attitude after the game? Like,
he was grumpy, wasn't he?
Yeah, if you don't agree with him, and if you start criticising him, he gets very offhand and snaps back his answer. He said, well, there's been an increasing amount of that lately. But I was talking to somebody else over the weekend who's followed England for years, a journalist, football writer, and he said, when England go abroad, Roy Hodgson gets treated better by the football authority of the team they're playing than he does by the English fans.
Yeah.
They always sort of. They regard him as a seer, you know what I mean? He's been around so long, he's coached in all sorts of countries.
We are hearing, are we not, once again, the media are giving him a hard time.
Yeah.
Why don't you just, stop punishing them when they do something wrong? We tried all that with the last World Cup.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody lowered their expectations,
That's right.
and look what happened.
But what happens is, he now has this expression, which he repeats in difficult times, and says, well, I'm a football man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a football man.
Yeah.
And when he's asked him, well, I'm a football man. And what he's trying to infer is that he's so, soaked in football and has been for the last 50 years.
You know nothing.
Exactly. And you must give me more respect. I'm a football man. Whereas in this country, people are so suspicious of his tactics and his ability to make it happen that the football writers don't treat him with reverence. Right. And I think he expects a bit more reverence from them.
I think he'd like that very much. Because you know how, I think it was just last Thursday or Wednesday, Wayne Rooney gave an interview to all the papers in which he said, people are going to fear us, because we've got a great attacking formation, la la la. I mean, nothing was looking at all fearful in that game against 10 men of Portugal, right?
Exactly.
And why would Roy Hodgson take the one guy who everyone in Europe is frightened of, and it's Jamie Vardy, because he's scored so many goals for Leicester. They've won the league, so he's not going to put him.
Boot contender.
He's not going to start. He's not going to start the games.
Yeah.
He's not going to play in position.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taking the fear out of it, isn't he?
Yeah. The biggest decision he's got to make, and he's only got a few days to do it, is whether he's going to drop Rooney from the starting lineup.
I don't think he should.
Well, I'm beginning to turn a little bit on this after seeing that performance the other night. If we get stuck in that blinking furrow that we got stuck in with Lampard and Gerrard, and if that furrow is now to be ploughed again, but the central figure is Rooney this time, and how to fit him into a team when we've got other great players, I hope that Mr. Hodgson would drop Rooney. Rooney's been my favourite player for over a decade, but if it's going to stop England winning at the Euros, then he should do that. He should make a brave decision.
You'll finally give it up on Wayne Rooney.
I haven't given up on Wayne Rooney.
What about an extra chapter for the one penny book?
I'm not even going to respond to that.
We might make it worth tuppence.
What I'm saying is, if Rooney is going to be the problem, then Hodgson is. By the way, did you know
Rooney's not the problem? Hodgson's the problem.
I agree. And do you know Hodgson is the highest paid coach in the world?
I know.
£3.2 million is in excess. It's double what Joachim Low gets at Germany.
Well, I mean, it was old Fabio Capello in Russia, wasn't it? But he got the heave-ho.
He got the heave-ho. But when Fabio was here, he was getting about £5 or £6 million. It was ludicrous. The amount of money the FA pay the coach of the England football team is simply ridiculous.
You're right.
And they should advertise the job when Hodgson goes, and hopefully sooner rather than later, in my view, without being unpleasant and unkind. They should advertise the job at £2 million.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, people are going to come in from all sorts of strange places, make themselves rich. You won't be any good.
I know.
Yeah.
Shocking state of affairs.
Yeah.
Maybe we should put the Everton guys in charge. They probably put the money up to $10 million a year. I must mention the weather to you as well, because I don't know whether you've noticed. There was a massive storm over in Sydney a few hours ago.
Indeed.
Where, literally streets were full of, water. And,
That's what happens when it rains.
Well, yeah, very funny. But, I mean, the water was coming. I mean, there was pictures of steps where... why are you looking at me like as if I've gone mad?
Because you're describing something which is a natural phenomenon. Most people know what happens when streets flood.
Yeah, all right. But what I'm saying is that, we're seeing an awful lot of extreme weather.
Right, OK. What else is it
in your words, right, there's a load of wildfires out by Los Angeles.
That's right.
Spreading literally like wildfires, which you once said.
Exactly.
People have been evacuated from their homes.
We've
had people struck by lightning. And you know how people... So we had a terrorist expert on the other day.
That's right.
Who said, actually, you got less chance of
being blown
up than you have of being struck by lightning while drowning in the sea.
Yes.
Loads of people, right, have been struck by lightning in the past few days. In Germany, a load of young people...
Why is this happening?
Well, I don't know. I'm saying that there's extreme weather in Europe.
I think it happens all the time, doesn't it? People are struck by lightning every day.
No, these are like these are like groups of people that are at a big concert in near Stuttgart somewhere, Frankfurt somewhere.
So lightning can hit more than one person at a time,
It can, apparently.
I didn't know that.
But they were all standing underneath a tree.
Well, it's a stupid place to stand when it's lightning, because if they hit the tree and the tree goes on fire or breaks...
I know you have no sympathy for people who have difficulties in their lives.
Well,
there's ridiculous flooding going on in France at the moment.
I don't think it's worth worrying about people who get struck by lightning.
I'm not saying worry.
Because it only happens about...
No. I'm not saying you should worry about it.
80 million times or
I'm
something.
just saying that there's an awful lot of extreme weather going around at the moment.
Yeah, OK, all right. Now I want to tell you about...
no interest in anybody else's life your own.
First of all, when are we getting the result of Heroes and Villains?
Well, I think we're about to get it now.
Are we?
Because producer Tom is...
You're trying to keep it out of the show until 2 o'clock when we hand over.
He's rearing himself up into his full pomp. Is about to inform us, I think, which one. Obviously, you don't just say Mike's won it. You'll have to say MG or Porky. Which one of us... Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
He's given it to Porky.
Woo, 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 woo.
Shocking.
That's because you based yours on a lie.
Hang on, not true. He said to me, in the absence of any CCTV footage.
Yes.
Well, the CCTV footage exists.
I'll be asking you for it at the start of every show we do from now until eternity.
Well, in the same way that I've been asking you for the last 3 years for you to prove that you've got a picture of yourself with Bill Clinton, that you've got actual 14 certificates of O-level, that you've got a picture of yourself with Joan Collins.
I'll bring the Joan Collins picture in tomorrow.
And Bill Clinton.
I'll bring Joan Collins' picture.
You'll bring the Joan Collins picture in tomorrow. What about the Bill Clinton one?
And then,
what about the Bill Clinton one?
That'll be another time. And then you can produce this CCTV.
Listen, as I've told you, there are issues about data protection which might make it difficult to put it out. Now, listen, don't worry, I will find, no matter how grainy the image is, I will put it out.
No, you won't. Now then, I want to talk to you about...
And then the producer says the result will be reversed.
OK, but it won't be reversed because it doesn't exist. Now, I want to tell you about another phenomenon. Western civilization is on the brink of collapse. What's your problem?
Why?
I'm reading it to you. Just like ancient Rome.
Why are you reading it to
me? Hang on, I'm going to tell you.
It's a radio show.
Just like ancient Rome.
Don't memorise anything.
Just like ancient Rome.
Yeah.
Because the modern generation does not want the responsibility of bringing up children.
The modern generation being
the birth rate is falling so rapidly in the Western world.
Well, some people say that's why we need immigration.
Perhaps they do, yeah. But, I mean, it's falling so rapidly in the Western world that, you could find whole streets deserted because there aren't enough people to live there.
That's rubbish.
No.
Well, don't worry. I mean, you just sell the flats to sort of, slum landlords like you, and you'll just buy them and leave them empty.
Here are falling birth rates alongside addiction to debt. The breakup of the family, which you know all about, of course, and
it's a cheery end to the show.
Hang on, and a growing gap between the super rich.
Pestilence.
Between the super rich and the rest of us, okay?
What do you mean the rest of us? Do you mean the rest of you?
Well, okay, that's right. And the major crises facing Britain and other European countries, governments... cannot solve these problems.
Governments can't solve these problems.
Now, do you know what it says? Now,
I have no idea,
I'm
sure you're going to read it to me.
In fairness, you've done your bit for population.
I have.
You have 4 children,
yes,
right?
I think I've done well, because also not only have I done my bit for population, but I've done my bit for average IQ.
No,
because,
other
there
thing...
are some stupid people who have children,
The thing is, you've done your bit for population, that you had 4 children, but the inordinate amount of practice in procreation that you've indulged in during your lifetime...
Practice?
Yeah, you
How
should
do you
really
mean?
have about 20 children, right?
Well,
yeah.
That's touching upon some very difficult subjects, I think.
No, I don't think it is.
It is.
You know exactly what I'm saying.
Because
you're a serial... Rogeriser, or have been. Maybe you're retired now. You are retired.
I'm semi-retired.
I'll accept that you're retired. Yeah, I'll accept you're retired.
I've got enough time now. We're doing these live shows.
What?
You keep dragging me up and down the country.
Yeah, well, where are we going next? I forgot.
We're going to Dingwalls.
Dingwalls on Friday?
Yeah.
There's a video out about it, isn't there?
There is a video.
Where do you find the video?
You can find it on the Two Mikes Twitter account. And, in fact, on the Facebook page as well.
Okay, my Twitter account is Mike Parry 8. What's yours?
It's IROMG. But the Two Mikes is where you should go.
Two Mikes, okay. Right, that's good.
By the way, do you know that on my Twitter account,
yes,
right, here's what it says. Free character readings on demand, Monday to Thursday nights on TalkSport and Sky Channels. Also, one half of the Two Mikes touring the UK now.
Right.
Do
Good.
you know what yours says?
No.
It doesn't mention the Two Mikes at all.
Doesn't it?
It says, it's Porky Parry of TalkSport.
Yeah.
Not only do I have the perfect face for radio, you can clock me on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then you give a completely different address to the Two Mikes.
Oh, I think that
was your own YouTube channel.
Yeah, well, that's...
Well, don't you want to change that?
Well, people are interested. But I think I will change it. If I knew how to change it, I'd change it. Yeah, I'll change it.
You don't know how to change it?
No, I don't have to change it, no.
All right.
But
I'll get you some help with that.
Yeah, I'll find somebody to change it for me. Good idea.
Because otherwise
good
people suspect that you're only interested in yourself.
Oh, no, people don't think that.
Which would be entirely incorrect.
People don't think that. Now, listen, the other thing I needed to talk to you about was... I
thought you were talking about the world ending.
Well, I've told you all about that.
Well, hang on. Well, so what you're saying is that the population increasing or decreasing in such a rate that we're going to run out of people.
You're going to run out of people, and whole streets in whole towns will... Well, listen, have you seen these pictures?
Do you have any kids living in your building? Because I bet you don't.
Yes, we do.
Do you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people from overseas living in my building, the sense that... Polish and Slovakians and people like that. Very nice people.
Are they all renters or have they bought them?
Almost the whole of the block I live in now is a rental property.
Is it?
And you will find that, whenever I go now and inquire about, buying property or something like that.
Buying property?
80%.
Well, have you got enough yet?
Well, you can buy and sell it, you see, and update it and all that kind of stuff. Depends on the length of leases and that sort of thing. But you'll find that 80%... that's about an average figure of anywhere I go and say, you kind of want to find out how many of them are going to be buy-to-let. 80% of them are.
Right.
80%
but is
of
it
all
now
property.
not more difficult, though? Because I saw a figure yesterday which was amazing, that the average price of a house now in London...
Over 600,000. Unbelievable.
That's ridiculous.
It is unbelievable.
It's no wonder that people of the younger generation don't want to have any kids.
I totally agree.
Because they can't afford to buy a house.
I totally agree.
So if you can't afford to buy a house, you're not going to have any children.
I totally agree. Have you seen the pictures of these sort of whole streets in northern towns, just abandoned, just gone?
Yeah.
Well, that could happen all over England if the population crisis is not solved.
Well...
Because if people can't live in those streets, it's like the broken window effect.
Yeah.
Once a house becomes empty and abandoned, two things could happen. One, squatters could move in. Or secondly, more likely, it could start getting vandalised and people tear out the copper pipes and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And then once that happens in one house, everybody else wants to leave. And so you could have huge... it happened actually in Detroit.
Yeah.
That happened. And it's fighting back now, Detroit, if you knew that. But it is.
It
It's
is,
fighting back in a big way.
the last time I went to Detroit, which was a long time ago, basically everyone who had any money had moved out of the city.
Exactly.
And it had become just a kind of a very, very bad place to go.
Exactly. Yeah. But they're changing that round now.
Time, by the way.
Yeah,
Show's over.
The show's over, yeah. Okay.
Extraordinary.